In the main hall, the palace suddenly emitted a bright red light. It came from a corner. "We will do it," Sir Leonha's voice echoed. That red glow was the Zappaner's eyes outside the window. In a room with a 2-meter-high door, there were 2 guards guarding it. Suddenly there was a noise on the other side. The guards noticed and turned their heads to look. It was Sir Leonha. On the left was the head of the Hunter Association, on the right was the warrior Wu Jisong. They immediately asked the 3 to stop. Wait. Stop. They were not allowed to enter this area, but their mistake was to raise their weapons in front of Sir Leon. He lifted his foot and kicked the door, breaking it into pieces. The 2 guards could not bear it and flew away with it. He walked in and stopped, glancing back. It was Kim Jinsu and Mr. Zappaner, supporting the 2 soldiers to save their lives. Mr. Leonha's cold voice rang out. "Come on in." It was a hallway with bright torches burning continuously without going out. Sir Leonha and his Zappaner and warriors entered, with Wu Jisong leading the group in. Kim Jinsu still couldn't believe his lordship's determination. Was it okay to attack so recklessly? They wouldn't surrender, so it had to be this way. Suddenly something happened. Wu Jisong announced to everyone. "What? Everyone look at this." What is this?" All 6 eyes are looking forward. It must be something formidable. There is a place like this right under the palace. What's that? Is it a bed? It's already strange that there's a bed in such a vast space in the kingdom. And yet there's an extra bed here. Leonha thought to himself, this is the kingdom secret the queen was talking about. He said, it was obvious they were hiding something. We must check. After saying that, he went in alone. The soldiers tried to stop him, but it was insignificant. Wait, Your Majesty. He lifted the curtain firmly with his hand. The curtain was lifted to reveal the body of a white-haired woman curled up inside. The 2 young men Wu Jisong and Kim Jinsu turned red as soon as they saw each other. It seemed that this overwhelming beauty was too much for the 2 of them. Their eyes were glued to her. The girl with long, seductive hair was curled up on the bed, her hair spread out, very seductive. It was heart-stopping. Kim Jinsu stood there and couldn't help but exclaim. So beautiful. Even the old man next to him couldn't help himself when he saw it. Beauty. Sir Leonha sighed. These 2 must have been under the spell again. He shouted, resist the charm. Do not be fooled by this evil energy. But how can a womanizer listen to what you say? Kim Jinsu, my mouth is watering. So beautiful. Sir Leonha was the only one who was not affected by the charm. But even with his support halo, it was still useless. The support halo didn't work, so I had to use something else. He gave each of them a loving hand on the back of their neck. The whole army collapsed unconscious. The situation was getting worse. Looking back and forth, almost all of them were affected by magic. But looking at Wu Jisong, he was a little surprised. It's true that no one bathes twice in the same river. He laughed quite proudly. For having such a good wizard under his command. Hurting himself to resist the illusion. Wu Jisong, while still conscious of reality, quickly grabbed the knife and stabbed it straight into his leg to stay conscious. Your Majesty. Seeing this, Leonha also took out the healing chalice. He said, take a deep breath, inhale through your mouth and exhale slowly. Free your mind. A strange halo of light surrounded the 2 of you. Then it gradually spread out around. But just then, a familiar old man came here. It was the old general with the scar on his left eye. Unbelievable. He walked away lamenting. I never thought that the queen would deceive me. Sir Leonha sneered. He was holding a cup in his hand and was treating Wu Jisong. As for Wu Jisong, he was extremely uncomfortable in front of the villain. Was that really true? Guys, why is that smirk a sinister smile unlike his honest one? Sir Leonha sneered at them. Aren't you guys charmed by that queen? After hearing that, his face truly darkened. But he still gritted his teeth and answered despite the discomfort. That's because we're used to it. Damn it, Sir Leon couldn't help but curse. The queen's charm, he said, was a magic closer to a curse than an inborn one. It wasn't something you could get used to. I've seen someone with similar powers before. That was the Pleasure Demon Lord. A demon that seduces all living creatures. A magical excitement that leads beings to fall into the abyss of depravity. But strangely enough, as he spoke, Sir Leon stepped closer to the queen's body. He continued, that demon despises and hates humans more than anything else. Why can't I feel that energy from the queen? Having said this, the old general remained silent. And for some reason. You guys are fine. Here, Sir Leonha took a rose petal and dropped it into the cup. That little petal floats on the water. I wonder what use it will have. Then he said, the god of dreams and death. Suddenly from the cup emitted a strange purple light. He closed his eyes and prayed sincerely. Guardian angel, please accept my blessings. Okay, a guardian goddess appeared from the cup. With white hair and thin lips, she looked very beautiful. She appeared from the cup, slowly stepping down to the ground. Seeing this scene, the old general was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. His mouth was wide open as if he was seeing it for the first time, and his voice kept coming out. Knight of Asiana, owner of the lion's heart. The purple lantern appeared. I was willing to answer King Leonha's call. It was a beautiful goddess, looming behind King Leonha. She looked 3 times taller than him. She looked like a guardian angel. Sir Leonha was willing to bow down to her. God of dreams and death. Greetings to you, Flu. She said softly. All right, Knight of Asiana, owner of the lion's heart. I hope you will help me with this. Sir Leonha looked towards the old general. Making her attention turn to him as well. She also happily replied. All right, I can feel it. She said, the demons are corrupt. They keep deceiving you. The old general seemed to have been completely caught in a recurring dream, a ritual of corruption. Her voice seemed to be announcing the impending death that was about to happen to this entire land. The lantern was brought out. It was as tall as her body. It emitted a silver light. No matter how beautiful the dream was, in the end, you have to wake up too. Show me your true self. She waved the lantern. It glows and makes strange noises. Another space has covered the entire capital. Everything was submerged in that space. The entire capital was trapped in a space similar to the 1900s. Bang, the space shattered. In front of Wu Jisong was a horrible scene that even he was shocked by. It was a blue flame that engulfed every corner of the cave. Even though the space was nothing but rocks and dirt, it still burned. Still burned brightly up to the sky. A red eye appeared bit by bit, gradually burning out, revealing his true face. Still the scar on his left eye. The armor he wore seemed unchanged, but he was surrounded by fire. The blue fire penetrated his soul. Death Knight. The corpse that had been contained for so long fell. He had successfully shed his cicada shell. The old general had only been a tool for this monster to wreak havoc. Ha ha. Sir Leonha laughed heartily. Now I understand why I couldn't realize it sooner. That's because this world has the power to create anything. If the emperor, rest, do not, disturb, person. Every word this monster says is like it can't communicate. Maybe it can't speak. We must protect the person. Protect the mark. Hear this. Wu Jisong couldn't stand it any longer. He immediately informed his lord. Your Majesty, the Death Knights are approaching us. It's not just one Death Knight, but thousands of them coming. This corrupting energy is not born of evil. If so, the nightmare of these events must have originated from the Queen. The holy sword was drawn out of thin air. When the Queen awoke, this dream was certain. A skeleton soldier rushed forward, preparing to fight some basic battles with Sir Leonha. A brutal slash from this boss. It looked quite difficult, but it seemed that Sir Leonha was still able to withstand this attack. He smiled wryly as he tried to resist. But it's not that simple. They are the ones who use numbers to overwhelm. Another monster charged forward, preparing to attack the man who was defending the boss. He put all his strength into resisting. In the end, both blows were sent flying by him in a very smooth way. Leonha declared, this is a duel. If you still have the honor of a knight, you cannot act rashly. The Death General Zakato repeated, his tone firm yet sorrowful, honor. I threw that thing away a long time ago. This statement shows General Zakato's determination. As soon as he finished speaking, a group of death soldiers appeared at once and attacked King Leonha. But King Leonha was not weak at all and shouted. Do you think that if you join forces you can stop me? What a delusion. Then, Leonha's entire body was enveloped in a golden divine power. He stood tall and awaited the attack of the Death Knights that rushed in like a storm. As soon as they got close, his attack was immediately swung out. Wherever his hand swung, power immediately gathered there. He charged straight towards the Death Knights. The first person is destroyed, the next person comes, the battle is extremely tense and intense. But they were no match for Leonha. Defeating them was as easy as taking a bite out of them. Several of them were sent flying and crashed into the cliff, sending rocks flying everywhere. Manhwa continued to use his bare hands to grab the face, or in other words the skull, of another Death Knight. Then he used his strength to pin him down several meters into the ground. At the same time, the other Death Knights continued to attack him. Strong, Manhwa thought as he fought. Rather, this guy's abilities weakened when he became a zombie. Manhwa's sword attacks were extremely dense. All of them were aimed at the zombie Death God and the zombie General Zakato. However, Manhwa grew up. With that twisted pride of yours, you won't be able to protect anyone. With that said, Manhwa stabbed his holy sword straight into the ground. His power seeped through the ground and shattered it, destroying all the creatures standing above. In this case, it was the minions of the Death Knights. General Zakato just continued to call out in despair, "Queen, King." Manhwa's power erupted. Power shot straight up from the ground, sky and earth, rocks flew from the sky and earth were covered in darkness. Zombie General Zakato could do nothing to change the situation. He could only stare at the Queen's bed. Collapsed and watched his knights end their zombie lives. General Zakato could only sigh sadly. How terrible. Before he could finish speaking, Manhwa's sword tip was pointed straight at him. Right in front of him. King Manhwa, the zombie General Zakato spoke. But there was no time to wait. After he finished speaking, Manhwa interrupted. "Wake up from this short dream." But General Zakato did not accept it and kept hesitating. Seeing that General Zakato did not make the decision he wanted, Manhwa decided to give him the final verdict. "You finally refused to wake up. Now keep living in hopeless illusions." The stupid knight raised his sword arm up in the air. But before he could land, he suddenly stopped. Something was unclear, something he didn't quite understand. There's something strange, even if his loyalty is questionable, he wouldn't be a traitor. Why did the Queen ask him to kill them? Many questions popped into Manhwa's mind at that moment. Then an impossible thought occurred to him. No way. A doubt arose. Was she a demon? To confirm his thoughts, Manhwa put down his sword and looked towards Zakato, asking him to explain. But with the authority of a king, he asked arrogantly. "Tell me, what did you do to the Queen?" Manhwa's face looked extremely scary at this moment. Under the pressure of absolute power, General Zakato finally gave in and told the whole story. The king had made a pact with a demon. The past scene of the Serpent Kingdom is recreated in his story. A kingdom overrun by monsters. Even the palace was attacked by those monsters. Corpses of villagers and soldiers were scattered everywhere. Even the queen sitting on the throne was not spared. Her body was covered in wounds and blood. The kingdom was on the brink of destruction. Suddenly a voice spoke. It called out, "Queen!" A hooded figure suddenly appeared in the middle of the castle. "I am very impressed with your courage. Make a deal with me." "Deal?" "Yes. Take the seed of corruption and continue fighting the devil for another 100 years. The guy started seducing the poor queen of a fallen kingdom. If you do not become corrupt, I will save you and your people." The man smiled evilly and a purple glow appeared. They made an offer that was too much for this poor queen. The queen of a kingdom on the brink of destruction. There was no other choice but to accept the contract. Even if it was a cunning trap. The queen's hand gradually placed itself on the purple orb and established a contract. In the 5th year after the pact was established, the number of people with degenerate minds twisted by pleasure and torment increased without stopping. They killed people, killed everyone around them, and laughed madly. "Ha, so happy. Why is everyone avoiding me?" During the day he had to watch demons slaughter his people. At night he was troubled by whispers in his ears. "A depraved man, catch him." "Me, what the hell have I done?" I was still able to endure the first few years, but my opponent was the great devil of pleasure. The young queen's mind gradually wavered. The trap it set was cunning and sinister. There was no loophole in the pact the king had accepted. Anyone who commits suicide to escape the contract will become a wandering demon in the 9 levels of hell. And when the 100-year contract ends, all will become corrupt slaves. The queen finally went mad. The thought that his kingdom was about to turn into ashes. The nature of corruption was sown in the human body and gradually devoured its very essence. In the 50th year, the most loyal knight could not resist his desire. When he broke into the queen's bedchamber, I took his life. General Zakato made a decision. If no man can resist charm, then we will kill ourselves. As long as the queen is protected and the king is loyal. He and his knights all committed suicide with determination. Even if this land is tainted, even if I become a wandering devil in the 9 levels of hell, even if I have to break my contract with the devil and become a corrupted slave after 100 years. I will also protect the queen and king to the end. With that determination, General Zakato became a zombie knight. General Zakato told Leon Ha everything. Since we committed suicide and became death knights, the queen's charm no longer had any effect. We sealed the queen away. And the seal that had existed for 80 years was the only sacrifice to put the king into a deep sleep. Leon Ha was a bit surprised when he heard that and thought to himself, what kind of loyal king is this? But on the outside, he calmly nodded. So that's why the queen asked me to kill you guys. At this moment, the goddess Flu called out, Leon Ha. Do you hear it? Leon Ha nodded, his eyes coldly turned away. Yes, I can feel it. The dark aura continuously radiated. It crept from the stairs, the alleys, to the outside of the castle. The power of demons carrying evil energy. Leon Ha immediately gritted his teeth in alertness. Demons! He called out loudly, soldiers of King Leon Ha, get up! How long are you going to sleep like fools? The people who had just been knocked unconscious on the ground heard the scream and stood up in surprise. Before they could regain their composure, Leon Ha had already grabbed them by the collar and dragged them away. Get up now! I will do what I have to do. In a second, all of them disappeared into the cave. Only the goddess Flu and the knights remained. She turned her head and asked, where were we? The knight outside was startled to realize, there they were. He quickly went forward to inform Leon Ha. Your Majesty, the demons have already crossed the wall. Taehun's expression changed as he realized, that was. There are too many of them. The whole pack of demons is rushing over here at a rapid speed. Leon Ha calmly looked at them and said ha. Wu Jisong bravely stepped forward first. The other soldiers also quickly put on their armor, helmets, and shouted, raising their shields. They quickly fell into line, muttering to themselves, to do as the king said. Hold your position and block the enemy's advance. The demons are getting very close now. Meanwhile, Leon Ha also stepped forward strongly. His whole body was covered with sparkling golden light, his eyes were determined. Zappaner and Leon Ha stood on either side of the army, covering them with their power. His soldiers were more confident than ever that the king would destroy them. A very fast and ferocious demon approached. The 10-armed demon was the leader of the demons. He crossed his arms and gave orders, advancing on the slaves, showing them what pain was. It bestows insane power, the feeling of pain is replaced by excitement. The demons immediately became excited. They rushed to the castle and killed them all. Zappaner takes out its mechanical voice, eliminates hostile elements, and unleashes weapons. Leon Ha growled, let's go, let's go. He shouted madly and charged towards the demons. The army quickly charged forward, like a harvester rushing towards the demon field. The mad demons wanted to knock the soldiers' shields off. The soldiers standing above were a bit shaky, damn it, there were too many of them. But while we were trying to hold on, the king. The soldiers turned their heads to see Leon Ha surrounded by countless demons. Looking at the powerful demons attacking, the soldiers secretly sighed, it's over. Suddenly, a huge explosion occurred on Leon Ha's side, knocking away the demons. Leon Ha let out a loud roar, Leon Ha's power. He strongly exerted his strength, the demons were swept up into the air. The soldiers saw this and were scared to the point of sweating. Leon Ha gritted his teeth, the reason behind the power of the pleasure demons was their large numbers. Although the combat power of the lust demons is considered weak, after receiving the berserk effect buff, they become extremely troublesome. Leon Ha realized, as Stallion, this was a magic that only high-level demons could use. He couldn't be careless anymore. Now there was only this way. Right now, in front of him was still a bunch of demons. He closed his eyes and concentrated his strength. Then opened his eyes and looked at the demons gloomily. Okay. I have to do it. Strength filled Leon Ha's body. He turned to call everyone. All, charge. The soldiers also quickly followed the order and adjusted their positions. Unexpectedly, the knights charged out from the darkness of the cave. They spread out to both sides, covering both sides of the soldiers. The demons saw this and rushed forward crazily. The dark knights are not afraid of them either. Their war horses galloped fiercely, like sharp arrows rushing towards the demons. A voice called out from behind Leon Ha. King Leon Ha. He also turned his head to recognize it. General. Leon Ha smiled in praise. Well done. I think I woke up from a nightmare. General Zakato bowed his head in response. My loyalty to the Queen and King has always been the same. Leon Ha nodded. Yes, of course it must be so. The general was silent for a moment and then continued. King from Earth, we have gone through many hardships to protect this place. However, he led his soldiers forward and continued speaking. If you can make a difference like this. Here we are, the Queen's loyal knights. Will also do my best to help you. Li Anha's mouth corners gently curved up. He turned his head towards the demons and replied. Then I have to show my best. However, you guys aren't as strong as I expected, but that's okay. It was a symbol of hope. Li Anha's whole body lit up once again. He stepped forward and said, "O fire god. Even if this world is destroyed by demons, even if gods reign in that heart, please grant me your courage." Immediately after, Li Anha's body was surrounded by the characteristic light of the fire god. In that moment, even for the Queen's loyal hunters and knights, Li Anha smiled faintly. "Please answer my request." The power that enveloped him exploded. It formed a large sphere that lit up the sky. Li Anha stood there like a grim reaper. His hair had also changed color. He felt power spreading through his body. The power of the fire god. The god of war erupts. The demons saw that aura. Suddenly felt a little scared. Li Anha forcefully stabbed his sword into the ground. Then shouted loudly. King Li Anha. The ultimate war machine in armor. The great fire god. Fire. War god. The soldiers looked at their king in amazement. Li Anha calls again. My knights. Hear my call. Right here. Right now. The flames of war will consume evil. A huge stream of power was released again. The demons have never been so discouraged. At this moment a powerful beast advanced. Those are two cart animals for Li Anha. Li Anha quickly jumped into the box hanging behind the car. Watching the horse gradually disappear, Li Anha smiled faintly and said, "Thanks, my friend. May you rest in peace." He reached for his sword. "All right. Follow me." Li Anha commanded his troops to move forward. The beast at the forefront roared fiercely. The leading soldier also shocked everyone's spirit. "Do not be afraid. Bring me their heads." The battle against the demons takes place again. The demons were more cautious this time. Regain your war horse and charge. Li Anha's expression changed as soon as he saw it. He shouted angrily. You damned demons. Trying to imitate humans as cavalry. Fuck it. Attack them. The brave army charged forward. Slap those hateful and cruel demons in the face. Li Anha quickly buffed more. Berserk effect. The demons were quickly driven away. They were all surprised and widened their eyes. Li Anha took the opportunity to advance further. Each time he passes, he knocks away the demons. Then he moves forward. The 10-armed demon standing in the distance was furious. Impossible. What the hell is that thing? How can it pass through like it's no ghost? It orders the demons on the other side. Fire the magic cannon. Kill them all for me. The little devils got into position. Raised the cannon. Ready to fire. It just shot out. Several cavalrymen were immediately shot away. Li Anha scolded angrily. Using ranged weapons. What a bunch of bastards. Li Anha buffs strength. Wrath. Applies to all units. Uniform immunity. Applies divine defense. Nullifies arrows. Applies to units under your command. Brave knights are subject to fire resistance. Another big explosion happened. Li Anha's army charged forward bravely. He shouted to everyone. Follow me. Charge. Buff is activated again. Applies rage effect to all units. Activates the protection of the war knight and destroys evil. Morale increases by 400%. Morale increases by 120 points. Morale increases by 100%. Physical damage of all troops increases by 35%. Reduces demon defense by 80%. The Great Warrock's armor adds fire sword attribute effects to ally troops. The Greatest Demon Hunter. Activates the physical resistance reduction effect. Reduces magic resistance and melee defense. Automatically burns the souls of all demons within a 1-kilometer radius. The demons at this moment can only cry. Li Anha finally heard someone calling him. Human. Got you. The 10-armed demon was jumping down from above towards Li Anha. It slashed down. The cart instantly shattered. The fierce cart-pulling beast roared. The 10-armed demon gritted his teeth in anger and cursed. These lowly people. It glanced around and realized. This was not enough. Where was Li Anha? Little did it know that Leon Ha had circled behind it. He jumped down forcefully. The demon quickly leaned to the side to avoid it. He opened his eyes wide and screamed. He was shocked. Where is Quan? Kill him? Leon Ha's whole body emitted a dazzling light, and he said coolly, 1 minute. Soldiers, hold on for just 1 more minute. Looking at that image, for some reason the 10-armed demon was trembling slightly. Damn it, he was just a human? How could he do this to a mere human? How could he make the knights of that ruined kingdom so strong? The 10-armed demon angrily walked towards Leon Ha. You, King Leon Ha, it is you who killed Dozdan. Leon Ha asked in a low voice. Dozdan? Oh, you're talking about that fat guy who wanders around with an abnormal sexual appetite? That's right. You perverted, wretched bunch, I've already crippled all your limbs, and you won't be any different from them. Only difference is, now I will punish you even more miserably than that fat guy. The 10-armed demon was extremely angry after hearing this. You, take it. It stretches its body and gathers its strength. Evil energy fills the sky. I, Androgyne, will tear you to pieces. Swerve away. He swung his arm and threw the knife towards Leon Ha. Leon Ha on this side is also ready to get into position. He stepped forward, swinging his sword in response. Instead of just arguing, focus on your magical power. But however, you are too weak. A sword Leon Ha slashed down. Form a straight line across the sky. Cut off one of the demon's arms. The demon was terrified. He countered the attack and aimed at his own hand. While he was confused, a voice rang out above his head. I told you. I will kill you all. One by one. Leon Ha said and swung his sword, preparing to slash down. The demon suddenly smiled strangely. It screams loudly. Desire. The organ of desire. Satisfy your primal desire. No living thing can resist. The soldiers on this side saw this and also shouted worriedly. Oh no, my king. King Leon Ha. Leon Ha was also very surprised when the demon used this move. But the next wire calmly slashed down across the demon's body. The demon's eyes widened in disbelief. How could that be? How could you deny yourself the pleasure of lust? Leon Ha replied gloomily. Even the demon lord of pleasure cannot charm me. How can a useless thing like you fool me? The demon gritted his teeth and glared. Impossible. Something is wrong. As long as there is life, humans must have desires. I have to run. After deciding, the demon loudly ordered. No, stop him. You guys stop this guy. Leon Ha laughed contemptuously. The beast pulling the cart suddenly appeared. It knocked the demon away. The demon fell backwards. Leon Ha challenged. Hey, I'm here. He said and stepped on the demon with one foot. The demon roared. Wait, you coward. You let a god interfere in our fight, didn't you? I thought you knights were fair. Leon Ha stroked his chin. That made sense. It was unworthy of a knight to let a third party interfere in a duel. The demon immediately chimed in. Right. In that case, Leon Ha suddenly interrupted it. But, with scoundrels like you, there's no reason for me to show any respect. Because, this is not a battle between knights, but to kill some trash bugs. With that, he swung his sword again. The demon below could only scream. Damn human. Leon Ha hit a home run. Thus Androgyne, the great demon of pleasure and depravity, was destroyed. The scene shifted to this side, the queen recalled. From the beginning, this kingdom was very prosperous and peaceful. I once thought that this peaceful period would last forever. Everyone was thinking the same thing. Until the demons appeared and swept everyone away. She still remembers the moment she saw the army of demons swarming into her kingdom. The wise queen, who was also a magician, knew that well. She tried to stop the impending tragedy by creating a magical shield. And tried very hard to eradicate those evil demons. Over time, we'll prolong the life of this kingdom. At first, I just hoped we could win. But that small hope did not last long. We realized that no matter how many times we kill them, they will always come back to life. This war, we humans will never win. No matter how many battles you win, or how many demons you defeat, they will always come back. Helplessness is like stupidity. The end of a kingdom, no matter how hard we try, is very near. The queen sat down sadly. Just then, a mysterious black-clothed demon appeared and said, Hey queen, make a deal with me. If you can withstand the seeds of corruption for 100 years, we will stop invading this world and, all, will return to the way it was. The queen recalled how she had quickly reached out her hand at that moment, without even asking herself, "How can I believe what you say?" She did not hesitate to reach out to the demon. I accepted. Even though it was a cunning trap of the devil, it was the only way this world could return to the way it was. To protect my loved ones and my people, I agreed. And so the process of the kingdom's destruction repeats itself in the joy and pleasure of corruption. The good people, the loyal knights, and the proud queen of that day. Little by little, they quickly sank into darkness. Once completely corrupted and on the side of darkness, there is no going back. Finally, a knight, unable to control his lust, sneaked into the queen's bedroom. The Grand General then made a decision. He sealed the queen underground. Then commit suicide and turn into a zombie. The queen always sleeps and blames herself. It's my fault, I'm the one who caused this. A decade of regret and she's exhausted. A doomed fate with no end. Over and over again. The queen always wished that this nightmare would end soon. After destroying the demon, Lian Ha and the other knights were standing below the cave, pensively looking at the items on the table. Lian Ha asked, "Is that the crown of ruin and the nameless sword that the demon usually carries?" The zappaner on the table rang a few times. Lian Ha folded his arms and asked, "Do you like it?" Zappaner replied, "The metal material is durable and useful." Lian Ha said coldly, "But it's been tainted by evil. I think it's sucking souls." Zappaner replied confidently, "I can handle it." Lian Ha nodded, "If you say so then fine." He folded his arms and focused on the remaining crown. So, this. At this moment, the goddess Flu called his name from behind. Lian Ha. Lian Ha respectfully placed his hand on his chest. "Yes, goddess, please speak." The goddess replied, "Show me the crown of decline that you obtained." Lian Ha hesitated. "I'm afraid it will dirty people's eyes." Goddess Flu shook her head. "It's fine." After seeing the crown, she was silent for a few seconds. Then asked Lian Ha, "This crown, don't you remember? It is the crown of the demon king of pleasure who was beheaded by you." Lian Ha was surprised. "Is that so?" The goddess continued speaking. "Those evil demons of lust deceive children with dark evil illusions. That power has been sealed within this corrupted crown. But now it belongs to you. Maybe it will be useful to you." Lian Ha replied in a low voice. "I can't destroy this thing right away anyway. If you wish to have it, I will gladly offer it to you." Goddess Flu smiled. "Thank you. You have worked hard this time. The temple is very pleased and thanks you for the glory you have contributed." Lian Ha bowed his head humbly. "I only did what I thought was right." The goddess Flu called again. "Hey, God of War. Come say hello to him before you leave." The God of War said coldly. "Hello. Fine." He appeared with an arrogant look on his face. He crossed his arms and looked at Lian Ha. But he was a little confused. It was hard to say. Goddess Flu chuckled. "It wouldn't hurt to be honest." At this, Lian Ha bowed his head and said, Please. I have a request." The God of War spoke. "What request is this?" It always sounds demanding. Goddess Flu also spoke. "Just say it." Lian Ha turned his head back and said, "I hope they can get their souls back." The people he was talking about were those zombie knights. The two gods heard the request and thoughtfully stepped forward. The God of War asked in disbelief, "You're telling me to take the souls of these zombies to heaven? They've abandoned the cycle of life and death on their own." Goddess Flu glared. "Don't be so stubborn. All of those things are not problems you can solve." The God of War gritted his teeth in anger. What kind of god would allow these zombies such an opportunity? The goddess said in a low voice. "That's not entirely true. They are only after their master." Lian Ha put his hand on his chest. "Please speak." The goddess Flu spoke. "Those who defy death are evil beings that you must punish. They have broken out of the cycle of reincarnation." At this moment, a gentle voice rang out. Please spare them." The queen, who had been asleep for more than a decade, has now awakened. She continued. "They did that unnatural thing. To protect me. Please. Queen of this ruined kingdom. May the two gods have mercy." The goddess spoke in a low voice. "The queen's loyal knights. No one in the temple can take their souls to heaven." The queen was disappointed. "Is that so?" Who would have thought the goddess would speak? "But your merits are enough to cover up your mistakes. We gods are impressed with your loyalty. And above all, King Leon Ha here begged me. They up there won't let me do more than this, but since you asked for it, I will cleanse your tainted souls so you can have a chance to be reborn. However, the goddess Flu approached the queen. I have something to suggest to you. This is the only way for their souls to rest in peace and enter reincarnation. Become a priest of the primordial god and help Leon Ha spread his faith. When the other world is active again, I will grant your knights a chance to be reborn. The queen was stunned to hear that. I thank you very much. A moment later, King Leon Ha held the queen's hand and walked out. He looked over silently. Saw his soldiers standing silently on the other side. Wu Ji-song stepped forward. Your Majesty, Leon Ha said in a low voice, report the casualties to me. Wu Ji-song said sadly. Most of the wounded were recovering thanks to the power of the Holy Grail. But 6 people have passed away. The soldiers were sobbing and crying. Leon Ha could only say one sentence. Oh, how sad. Looking at the soldiers lying neatly before him. He thought to himself, even facing such a boundless force of evil. But they did well. King Leon Ha took out his sword. I will pray for your souls, brave warriors. He put his sword on the ground, closed his eyes with the soldiers to commemorate the soldiers who had gone forever. Leon Ha prays, O God of fire. These brave warriors left with a blaze of glory. Please protect their souls. If they have made mistakes in life, please forgive them. And cherish their burning courage. Even when they face death. So that they can rest in peace in heaven. Wu Ji-song looked at the sparkling light in front of him and was surprised. This is. Leon Ha said again. Leave the names and families of those who died in this battle. The temple will never forget their kindness. The bodies of the fallen soldiers began to glow. Leon Ha was silent for a moment, then said to everyone. Let's go home. Towards the spirits. Voices echoed in their heads. The gates to heaven were opened. Your soul is at a low level. Can't enter the heavenly palace. Low faith level, can't enter the heavenly palace, your glory is too low. Can't enter the heavenly palace. King Leon Ha has blessed you. You have entered the heavenly palace. The gate began to open. Faced with the sudden appearance of the multivariable gate, the Hunter Association summoned all available hunters to focus on raiding the dungeon. A week passed. The government men outside shouted. They were out. They were back. King Leon finally cleared the gate and returned. Queen Bazai and a few people followed him. The crowd around shouted. They cleared the gate. Survivors. Report. On this side of the room, Leon Ha was sitting and talking with Okong-hoon. Therefore, Mr. Okong-hoon, the association's chairman, acknowledged that this gate breach was a huge loss for the association. And expressed condolences from the fallen hunters. Okong-hoon's expression was now extremely sad. He bowed his head with great respect. Okong-hoon said. We would like to express our deepest condolences to the hunters who fell in the recent battle. Leon Ha replied. I am also quite sad. Leon Ha continued. You must have watched the video of Mr. Zappaner. Okong-hoon replied. Yes, it was a red gate, even a multi-dimensional gate. Inside the gate appeared a deadly sin. It was a miracle that you guys were able to return with so few casualties. Is that so? Leon Ha immediately folded his arms and leaned back in his chair. Leon Ha's eyes immediately became extremely serious. Leon Ha said. I was thinking that I should meet the relatives of the fallen warriors. Hearing this, Okong-hoon said with a bit of surprise. You want to meet them in person? Leon Ha replied. They are our soldiers, so they should at least do that. Okong-hoon replied. I don't think it's good to do that. Leon Ha said. I'm not so narrow-minded that I can't understand the feelings of those whose loved ones died on the battlefield. I think hearing the whole story would make them feel better. Association President Okong-hoon. Okong-hoon replied. Yes, you can say it. Leon Ha continued. Take the video just now and call for more hunters to join the army. The evil spirits will eventually invade this world. We need more soldiers and knights to deal with that moment. Okong-hoon pondered for a moment and then replied. I understand. I will arrange and report the situation to you later. A sunny day at the Nachi Plains. Panton Army Camp. Leon Ha was sitting in his office and looking out the glass door. The demons are acting strangely, he thought. He needed urgent help. Leon Ha immediately put his hand on his chest. This time, I have to go myself. Suddenly a golden power radiated from Leon Ha's chest. He immediately fell into a silence in his body. And suddenly I was transported into another world. A lush green forest. Until Li Anha opened his eyes, a voice suddenly said, "Please come in. Your Majesty. Humble servant of the gods. May I send my greetings to the representative of the temple?" In front of Li Anha was a group of soldiers waiting for him. "Please come in." The gates opened as soldiers bowed in greeting. In front of Li Anha was an extremely large, majestic and magnificent castle. Li Anha said as he walked, "Long time no see. Is heaven comfortable?" Aniak replied happily. "It was all thanks to the king's protection." Li Anha replied, "Is that so?" Li Anha happily looked at the two people in front of him. Sir Guido, Sir Antony, both of them seemed brighter. Guido replied, "Ha, if I knew this place was so beautiful, I would have come earlier." Li Anha said, "Don't joke like that." The king. Suddenly a voice rang out, causing Li Anha to turn around in surprise and recognize him. The late king. King Argenti looked at Li Anha happily and said, "Wow, it's been a long time." Li Anha bowed in response. "I apologize for disturbing your rest." Argenti smiled and replied, "Don't say that. Don't we share the same blood?" Li Anha continued, "Your Majesty, the new souls have arrived. Do you know about their arrival?" "Ah, that." Argenti replied. "Think of the soldiers falling into heaven." He continued, "Aren't they the soldiers who died in the recent battle? Rest assured they will be warmly welcomed." Rest assured. Argenti continued, "There must be a reason why you came so soon. Tell me." Li Anha replied, "I originally came here to greet the gods of the Temple of All Gods and explain a few things. The situation is urgent. I must rely on the wisdom of my ancestors." Argenti folded his arms and said, "Okay, let's go to the woods. I'll let you talk to my friend, Peter Leon." Finally they went to the forest together. A pair of wings appeared in the sunny sky. Li Anha is riding on a flying horse. He glanced back. Below, a group of people were riding horses following. Li Anha thought, "One day I will also run here with Sir Talion." Of course this cannot happen if the future Earth is invaded by demons. They're there. That way. Sir Peter Leon. Ha, the divine horse neighed. They finally flew to the forest. Landed in an open space. "Here we go," Li Anha said. Li Anha. A voice rang out from within the forest. "The legitimate Grand Duke of the Kingdom of Sargonia. The owner of achievements." Li Anha immediately said, "The wise wooden man." Li Anha continued, "I apologize for invading your land." The wooden man replied, "King Li Anha. All living creatures." A tree gradually transformed. It took on a human face and spoke. "All are indebted to you. Even the spirit." Gradually the wood spirit appeared. "This forest is always happy to welcome you," Li Anha replied. "It is embarrassing to be mentioned with the gods." The wooden man replied, "Descendant of a venerable dragon slayer and demon hunter, successor to the throne Li Anha. How serious is the matter? At this point, one must go to the afterlife." "Gunnar," Li Anha said. "The youngest wise man among you. And also my friend. I want to see him." "Gunnar." Suddenly the root moved. "The youngest wise man." The trees said in unison. The whole forest shook, causing the surrounding birds to fly away in fear. "Leon. Old friend." Li Anha's face was extremely happy. Gunnar appeared and said, "Why did you come here to see me?" Li Anha said, "Gunnar. I need your seeds." "Oh." Li Anha continued. "Of course it's difficult for you. Because it's against nature." Gunnar asked with a very surprised expression. "This matter. Do you need it urgently?" Li Anha answered without hesitation. "Yes." Li Anha continued. "The place where I reign is currently being invaded by a species of evil monsters. I know this very well because I have seen them on my journey. They have noticed our presence and have begun to act. The image of the demonic forces that threatens humanity. They are now also trying to infiltrate that planet. Just like in the kingdom before, I see." Gunnar remembered the past and said, "Yes. They will destroy everything in their path." "All right." Gunnar lifted his root and said, You are the only one left after all. You can handle those evil demons. Gunnar then twisted his two roots together, creating a very beautiful light. The light condensed into a sprout. Gunnar gave it to Lianha and said, "Take this. I am counting on you." "Thank you," Lianha said. Gunnar replied, "It's good to see you again after all this time. Old friend. Take care, for the future will be difficult," Gunnar said as he quietly disappeared. As he was about to leave, Argenti suddenly called out, "Leon! Sir Gattad! His Majesty the former king!" Argenti said cheerfully, "I have to go back soon. Take this." Argenti then handed Lianha an object. "This is," Argenti said. "After a while of discussion, I want to give you something that you need right now. It will help you a lot in the future battles." Lianha held the item in his hand with a slightly surprised look. In Lianha's hand is the bridle of a master tamer. It can even train mythical beasts. I give it to you because its owner has passed away. I received this when I went to his funeral. It was my turn. Gattad immediately gave Lianha a notebook. "This is." The giant notebook in Lianha's hand was glowing. Gattad said, "I heard you're training your army from scratch. I bet you must be frustrated." Lianha read the name on the book. "How to Train Giants Easily. This is the legendary warrior training manual." Gattad said happily, "How to Catch Giants Easily. Hee, when I was alive, this was the book I used to train." King Aniak happily stepped forward and said, "I will also give you this, I hope it will be helpful to you. Please take this." Aniak gave Lianha the glowing bracelet. Lianha immediately understood. The relic is a treasure that can only be passed between saints. How can a commoner like me receive it? Aniak replied, "You are the new owner of this relic. The gods support you." Aniak clasped his hands in reply. "It will be the power that will protect the king before the holy sword is resurrected. Please accept it." Thank you everyone." Lianha said thank you and was very touched. For these precious gifts. Light gradually covered Lianha's entire body. "I will use it effectively." The night gradually fell. Footsteps are gradually approaching the door. Lianha stood in front of the white door and said, "King Lianha here. Can I see you for a moment?" Queen Bizai was enjoying wine in her room when she suddenly heard it. She did not answer and just opened the door. Lianha's expression suddenly became extremely pensive. Bizai smiled and replied, "You are not going in," Lianha replied. "You still haven't given me permission." Bizai replied, "You are very upright. Come in." The extremely beautiful Bizai looked towards Lianha and said. Leon entered the room to see the princess looking out and smiling. He said, "Queen Bizai, please forgive me for making you stay in such a miserable place." Queen Bizai bowed her head and smiled. That was more than enough for a queen who had to live in exile. "I just hope you will forgive me for what happened in the past." Leon smiled back. "No need." He thought. "I seem to have no control over the energy." Then he walked closer to her and said, "My divinity has suppressed the seeds of corruption in your kingdom. But it cannot completely eliminate them. We'll have to adjust that balance for a while." Bizai looked at his hands and replied, "I see." Then the two sat down at the table. He asked, "Is that a farewell for her knights?" Bizai held his glass of wine and looked out. "That's all I can do. Nothing more, nothing less." Leon asked. She had been in this world for 2 days. So had she adapted to this place yet? She replied, "I'm afraid I need a little more time." Then she hesitantly said, "This place is too different from my previous world." He said, "You don't have to do that." If Hong Bizai did not understand, turned to look at him. Leon crossed his arms and said, "Be proud of what belongs to your kingdom. A true kingdom leader will expand its territory to all 4 directions, so that their people will follow that open and happy path." Bizai asked calmly, "Isn't that the way of thinking of an invader?" He replied, "It's different. Hurting others for one's own purposes. That is a hateful ambition. However, if she blesses everyone with the appropriate teachings, they will be enlightened and live happier lives." Hearing that, Bizai thought, "I see. So I did it with my power. I have fought against demons for 100 years. No matter what, I have no regrets. Then she said. It seems you are not only facing demons? He also replied. Yes. I have been entrusted with a noble mission by the gods. Therefore, the queen of the kingdom. I hope that you will also follow my ideals. She smiled and did not answer for a moment. Then she raised her hand in front of her to show her sincerity and said, I owe you my life. As your queen. How can I repay you? But there was one thing. Hearing this, he paused. Her eyes also became cold and she continued. The great devil would be happy if he came back. I want you to give me the strength to end his life with my own hands. Leon laughed and said. Okay, with those disgusting demons. Then I can do anything to get rid of them. I would be happy to teach you how to extinguish their souls with holy magic that will terrify them. How exciting. Ha ha ha. Oh my. In my kingdom, we usually throw demons into the fire and execute them. But no matter how many we kill, they will always revive again, so we think that doing so will not be enough. They are too selfish, only caring about themselves, doing evil. After telling the story, Leon's eyes were burning as he asked, have you tried sticking a spear into a demon's fingernail? They'll scream like crazy. Queen Bizai's eyes smiled more sinisterly in response. Ha ha ha. I also skinned them once and made them roll around in a field covered with iron nails. The two clinked glasses under the moonlight, he laughed and said. Ha ha ha, you are very creative. She replied. Yes, just like you. Under the starry sky a meteor streaked across. Haji is running back. She accidentally saw it and wondered. Ha? Your Majesty. I'm glad you're well. Haji said, bowing. Leon heard her speak. Come here. Make me a cup of tea. Haji took out the teapot and replied. Yes. Haji made tea and gave each person a cup. This is the best barley tea, Your Majesty. Queen Bizai accepted the cup of tea and replied, thank you, it's been a long time since I've been this relaxed. Leon held the hot cup of tea and thought to himself. Paper cup. Then he calmly said. Han Haji. I want someone to accompany Queen Bizai for a while. Luggage is not important. But make sure you dress properly and behave well towards the queen. Bizai said, you don't have to go to such trouble, Leon replied. No, I have to. A member of the royal family like you deserves a proper maid and assistant. After listening, Queen Bizai looked at Haji and smiled. So? What did you say your name was, Haji? Haji replied, startled. Oh, yes. Then Bizai continued. I sense a strong fire energy from you. If you can see it, I want to admire it a little. Hearing that, Haji suddenly thought. Then she can see my unique skill. Leon laughed and said. Then I will see how you swing that sword. I know that your ability is worthy of your current position. Show us your ability, can you use this? Then he took out a sword, Haji replied. Oh, it is my honor. Haji reached out to receive the sword. She turned sideways, preparing to swing her sword. Haji began to gather power around him. Then raise the sword high. Then use all your strength to slash down. Create a big hit. Leon spoke. The swing was too wide. Haji replied. Yes. Leon came out and took back the sword. It seems you just used a skill. Haji also returned the sword treasure. That's right. Then Leon raised his sword and said. He needed to swing it decisively. But keep the trajectory short. His eyes lit up. He swung his sword and slashed once, leaving a large, long mark on the ground. Then he turned to Haji and said, that's easy. When you have time, practice again. Haji was startled and couldn't calm down to answer. Yes. Leon then turned to ask. Bizai, what do you think? The queen replied. Her ability to use fire magic was a bit lacking. Fire element is a pretty powerful force. She just needed to pour mana into the sword. Instead of simply swinging the sword. As she spoke, the queen summoned the sword. Bizai used his power on the sword and spoke. He compressed the power within himself and then used it to transfer it to the place where it needed to converge. The entire sword was then engulfed in flames. Bizai said. Once it was compressed, the fire would not be easily extinguished. She firmly swung her sword twice, once she got used to it. Say it again. And then release the pent-up fire. The moment of truth. With just a single swing, the queen attacks into the air. The sword path emitted strong magical power as it traveled a path. Bizai's eyes were filled with excitement as she said, she just needed to compress it until the temperature was high enough to burn the enemy to ashes. Sounds simple, Haji thought to himself. How easy is that? Then everything became quiet again. The sky passed quietly too. That night Haji lay on the table sighing. There was so much to do. She cried until her tears ran dry and she muttered to herself. I have to send reports to my boss and the president of the association. I also have to bring potatoes and sweet potatoes to the new recruits. And that's not all, I also have to upgrade my weapons and change my armor. But where can I find iron? What to do with taxes? They don't teach this stuff in school. Suddenly the robot appeared and said, Can't handle accounting. The robot was on his hair. Haji looked up and asked, What do you want, Mr. Zappaner? It startled me. The robot replied, I want to divide the work to make things more efficient. Haji's eyes lit up when he heard that. That's right, Mr. Zappaner is a supercomputer. He can do whatever he wants. Then the robot began to explain. After a while searching for data, the robot started speaking. Absolute reference data apply special administrative law. Food cost of hunter has been processed. Registration production of private equipment has been completed. High crop prices in Neju Plain using special support of agricultural and fishery law can apply purchase tax benefits. Separation of business entities. Manson Farm and Manson Temple Confronts are two completely separate enterprises. Manson Farm receives special support under the agriculture and fisheries law, applying additional tax exemption. Apply tax exemptions to social welfare companies as well as family support projects for active duty soldiers. Haji almost fainted at this point. Haji started fuming, she said. Enough, the information is very useful. Actually, she didn't understand anything. The robot replied. See you when there is more to discuss. Then Haji asked the robot again. Oh, Mr. Zappaner, I need made clothes. A European-style maid outfit, okay? The robot did not reply. After a while the robot replied, King Lianha resembles the early and medieval European monarchs. Choosing a European-style made uniform is reasonable. Hearing this, Haji's eyes lit up and said, Thank goodness, I'm going to be a cosplayer soon. The robot asked, Do you want me to buy a maid outfit based on the database you provided? Haji replied, If possible, that would be great. But Haji didn't know, the database the Zappaner was referring to was sexy maid outfits. Is complete data information from an online shopping mall. There is a comment, my boyfriend likes big, must use often. Actually looking for underwear. In the sunlight a car left the parking lot. Several figures came down from the car. This is a handsome male student, Hunter Academy, A rank, Han Suho. From behind, a brown-haired boy spoke to the person in front. You're more persistent than I thought. This is also a person from the Hunter Academy, A rank, Kim Jae-hyuk. Han Suho heard that and turned his head, smiling at Kim Jae-hyuk. Never mind, everyone saw it. So it's normal. Back in time a few days ago, King Leon visited the Hunter Academy. Leonha spoke loudly to the students in the class. I did not come here as a soldier. I am here to save the next generation of hunters. I will teach you everything from swordsmanship, spear fighting, horse riding, and even theology. The students below were stunned, not understanding what was happening, frowning and wondering. He just said theology. From the middle of the class, a male student stood up and spoke up. I specialize in using bows and arrows. Leonha angrily pointed at that person and scolded him. You loser, don't use that. Go learn it yourself. The student immediately replied sadly. Yes. At first, Leon was disdainful and rude. The students were all dissatisfied. Leonha continued speaking on the podium. But if you study theology, I can teach you some basic sacred arts. The students still can't understand. So after graduation, you'll become a priest, study theology, study religion. Leonha said as he flicked a flame from his hand. Now, look here. After witnessing that display of power, the entire group of students were left gaping. They were immediately convinced. While the two were engrossed in their serious talk. I was really shocked by the culture, it was amazing. Anyone could use magic. From behind the two, a girl's voice rang out. There was nothing magical about it. The two men immediately turned back to look at the girl. Through the uniform, it can be seen that this is also a student of the Hunter Academy, A rank, John Soyeon. The girl said coldly. If you don't try hard, you will just be a waste. Kim Jae-hyuk heard that and joked. In the end, you still went, right? You were praying that he would ignore you like a commoner. John Soyeon recalled Leonha's careless expression as she uttered the words, be careful with your words. Her entire face turned red. Han Suho, who was standing next to him, also asked curiously. How is the Sword Church? You are the granddaughter of the president. John Soyeon took out his phone and showed it to the two of them, asking, Haven't you seen this yet? Kim Jae-hyuk and Han Soho both tilted their heads to watch, wondering, What is this? Pantheon TV. On the phone screen was an account that posted Lee Han-ha's fighting videos, with the title of a secret that A-rank hunters don't want you to know about how to survive at the gate. A prayer of thanks to God. Some people wondered, did they film the scenes of King Leon using the holy relic and fighting at the gate? Would it be useful to look at this? Han Soho looked at his phone and exclaimed in surprise. Oh, this Haji's sister. Kim Jae-hyuk looked at Han Soho's phone and asked. You make a lot of money. Why are you using my old phone? Han Soho replied. Most of my salary goes to the orphanage. Kim Jae-hyuk asked again. Haji-ne and you are both working hard. I heard they are on their way to the shrine? Han Soho responded with an aha. She must be taking on some great responsibility. On this side Haji in her sexy maid uniform, a set of 5 coordinating items used in special events. The 9.98 rating is a bit embarrassing. After wearing this outfit, she felt something was wrong. Haji blushed and asked, confused. Hey, Mr. Zappaner, is this okay? Really? Zappaner replied to her. Seeing on the database, the numbers don't lie. 99.99% sure of the information. Are you doubting the database? Haji didn't believe it. Are you sure? Haji asked again. No, but this is a bit strange. Zappaner replied. Denying the database is not allowed. She and Zappaner continued to chat, but did not know that behind the door there was a group of people listening. Han Soho immediately recognized that this was her voice. I'll surprise her. He excitedly knocked on the door. Haji behind the door was immediately startled and jumped up, hugging the Zappaner tightly. Zappaner suddenly remembered to tell her. Oh, right. You said you had a guest today, right? It's time to open. Haji quickly shouted to stop her. No, wait. Mr. Zappaner. But it seemed too late. Zappaner had already launched his power towards the doorknob. Amid Haji's scream, the door opened, revealing Han Soho's smiling face. Haji was embarrassed and blushed, quickly pulling the maid dress on her body. Han Soho was stunned, not knowing what else to say. Haji quickly regained his composure, his eyes shining with joy as he greeted the crowd. Hello everyone. Everyone has traveled all the way here. Han Soho was still stunned, not understanding what was going on. Han Soho covered Kim Jae-hyuk's eyes with his hand and asked Haji. Sis, that outfit. Haji blushed and had to explain. No, I'm wearing it because I like it. Before she could say anything clearly, the zapper beside her spoke up to question her. She didn't trust the establishment. That wouldn't do. Haji was busy arguing with her to stop pulling my skirt. Han Soho suddenly noticed something. Looking at the two people busy arguing on one side, Lee Han-ha spoke up. What a disaster. Haji realized that someone was coming and was surprised when he found out who it was. King. Lee Han-ha's whole body was shaking with anger as if he was about to explode. He gritted his teeth and said. This is really. He pointed at Haji's head and angrily scolded. Disgusting. Go change your clothes right now. She could only shyly and resignedly reply. Yes. Haji was so angry that she cried. She looked at the Zappaner in her hand and gritted her teeth. It also sensed that it might be in danger, so it quickly spoke up. It's time for the second-year students to eat. I'll take my leave first. Then fly up into the sky. Sister, Han Suo, don't stand there and watch your sister being scolded by Lee Han-ha, telling her to go change her clothes quickly. The reunion with my sister that I've been waiting for all this time. It's terrible. The group stopped at Jeju Island. The red gate has also been opened. The people who just arrived said. Finally here. Hang Zi has stood with her arms crossed and said to her younger brother. I gave you money to catch an early morning flight. But you're still a bit late. The big guy standing beside her replied to her sister. Sister, our group is having problems. He turned his head and looked back. We were defeated at Zhongju Gate. I will find a way to make it up to you at the gate this time. He is the Golden Lion Guild's man, Hong Jeong-cheon. Suddenly, a red-haired man came to greet the two sisters. It's been a while, Jeong-cheon. Hong Jeong-cheon saw who had come and couldn't help but smile sarcastically and said, Look who's here. You've been running away since the blackmailing incident with the government. How dare you come near the red gate? Yong-won, the red-haired guy was hit in the sore spot and his entire face became distorted. He started to respond. It was thanks to our guild's sacrifice that you were able to escape that gate. Aren't you grateful? Hong Jiang-cheon was a bit surprised by his words. But then he immediately gave a cruel smile in response. Well said, the red-haired guy didn't give up and directly confronted him, even letting out a laugh. Hong Jiang-cheon said to him. Now let's make a 50-50 deal here, okay? The red-haired guy didn't agree and bargained. He didn't have the strength but wanted 50-50. The Newbies Association was the one having problems. Hong Jiang-cheon replied, not giving up. Who else can support you besides us? Is that right? The traitorous hunter asked the angry red-haired man. This brat, when you see someone being nice, don't go too far. Do you hear? Finally, the red-haired man pointed at Hong Jiang-cheon and said. 60-40, no more, no less. Hong Jiang-cheon agreed and replied. Okay, but you have to pay for the meal yourself. The red-haired man replied. I can pay for it myself. Hang Ziha beside him was also quite helpless. She could only sigh and say. How pathetic. They were no longer children. Why did they have to fight over such stupid things? Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind her. I don't know. Hang Ziha was startled and screamed. Oh my gosh. That person was a black-haired girl, she said. Sister, you're so scary. If anything, warn me first. Speak properly. This is the person from the S-Class Phoenix Guild, Ha Yuri. Ha Yuri said to Hang Ziha beside him. However, before the gate appeared, we were all gathered, right? 3 S-rank hunters, 1 near S-rank hunter. That's it. I've met the requirements to conquer a normal S-rank gate. That was probably enough. There was something unusual about the way she looked at Hang Ziha. The red-haired man's face contorted once more. Dead bodies lay scattered on the ground. On the iron armor is blood. It seems that the red-haired man's group is facing a very dangerous obstacle. Before them was a warrior, wearing iron armor, who seemed to be very angry and said. How dare you, right in front of me? Right in front of the great Gelbricht, you dare to help those bastards? The 2 sisters were also shocked. The knight said angrily. Ah, Gelbricht, Leonha's holy grail knight. I will grant you divine punishment. The knight then swung the hammer in his hand high in the air. Their mission this time was to save the people from massacre. The completion condition was to defeat the majestic Gelbricht. Then the knight slammed his hammer down. The whole team looked at the powerful armor in front of them in confusion. The armored man slowly assessed. You guys look very unfamiliar. The man pointed his weapon and asked. I ask you, why do you dare to attack the king's people? I will decide the punishment depending on your answer. Hang Ziha heard that and felt itchy in her ears. She replied angrily. What a strong mouth. Yongwan made a dirty hand gesture. She calmed down. Smugly said, well, there must be some misunderstanding here. Because these knights attacked us first. So we have no choice but to fight back. The knights shouted. Damn it, these bastards. Gelbricht lowered his weapon in warning. Natalian, I warned you to stop being so impulsive. What a blasphemy against the goddess's reputation. The man immediately softened his response. Yes, I apologize, Your Majesty. Gelbricht said. Guests from afar. On behalf of Natalian, I sincerely apologize. Yongwan also bowed slightly in response. I am very glad that all misunderstandings have been cleared up. He smiled inwardly. The negotiations were going better than I thought. Everything was going to be a piece of cake. Before he could be happy, Gelbricht spoke up again. However, the man activated his move. His voice also carried pressure. You have killed 6 of my warriors. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Let's see, if we lose 6 people. Then you have to pay with 60 lives. On the other hand, somewhere related to learning. Haji took his juniors on a tour. Kim Jae-hyuk looked around in confusion. This place was so ordinary. There were no modern equipment or medical room. Also, why do people go to the canteen just to drink water? Haji happily raised his hand to introduce. We've arrived. Han Soho was quite shocked. Kim Jae-hyuk looked and also muttered. What the hell is this? John Soyeon also didn't know what to say. Haji said, this is the training ground for soldiers. In the yard, couples are freestyle dueling. It looks chaotic. Bruised and bruised. Heads and foreheads broken. Kim Jae-hyuk rubbed his eyes and asked. Senior? What's wrong? Am I dreaming? Haji also sweated and tried to smile. That's it, isn't it practice? That kind of training, Kim Jae-hyuk asked while someone was fighting with his mouth, biting his opponent with his teeth and shouting. Harder, harder. Haji was about to brainwash them into joining the group, he replied. There was a whole world of meaning behind these training sessions. You guys should try it out too. Oh, I heard they're using a different practice manual this time. She laughed and said, you guys are so lucky. The more Kim Jae-hyuk listened, the more scared he became. He just wanted to run away from here as fast as possible. Suddenly Leon appeared behind and spoke. Everyone is here. The children stepped aside and Haji replied, greeting the king. Leon responded with a yes. Then he ordered, now we will welcome the young cadets who want to experience the challenge of conquering the gate, stop practicing and sit down. With that Haji put down a pillow. She respectfully asked the king to sit down. The students were confused, why did they have to use cushions? Leon sat down on the cushion and said to Haji, Haji, you too, go stand with them. We will have to complete our first exercise as nights later. Facing the heat. Haji hesitantly replied. Ah, yes. Then she quickly walked into line with the students. Leon saw that everyone was settled and began the lecture. I will select a few rough gems from among you and polish them to shine. Those who are chosen will continue their studies. I will personally guide and teach you. For the glory of your family, do your best. Haji knocked on Han Suho. Then she whispered, Soho, don't you feel like worshipping that day at all? I'll make it up to you. Han Soho was extremely confused when he heard his sister say that. Leon also finished the announcement. Alright then, let's see how good you guys are. Everyone, draw your swords. Leon ordered. Everyone was surprised and Haji cried silently in his heart. The time limit is, well, let's see, until the last person falls. Don't worry about getting hurt, I have the Holy Grail here, it will help everyone recover immediately. Said and done, Leon jumped out among the students. While everyone was still confused, Leon estimated, there were probably around 40 people. At best, at least one of you would be able to touch him. Haji shouted, be careful. Leon's expression immediately turned ferocious, signaling the start of the training. A confused student had not yet reacted when something flew towards him. Leon got into a position and flicked his palm as a reminder. Don't get distracted. There was a loud noise and one person was eliminated. The other students looked at the mirror in confusion, not seeing anything. Weapons, pick up your weapons. Leon successfully shook the tree and raised his hand again. Then, whatever you want, I will do it. Each painful scream mixed with the sound of forehead being snapped sounded like a painful song. Kim Jae-hyuk lay sprawled on the ground with a lump, angry with himself. Han Suho was also struggling to see his teammates lying on the field, everyone had a lump on their forehead. Leon stood among the students, evaluating everyone. You guys still have a long way to go. Don't worry, just give it your all. Han Soho was confused. We went all out, right? Kim Jae-hyuk replied. Yes, I was a little nervous at first, but I went all out. Haji couldn't escape being flicked on the forehead either, she said. Wow, your majesty is really strong. This is almost at the level of a general. Looking back at the match, Leon did not show any openings. He remained calm as two people rushed forward to try to pin him down. Han Soho attacked first. And he saw only one hand. The man grabbed his sword and dragged him away, while his other hand held Kim Jae-hyuk's nape and pressed down. So both were thrown to the ground. Haji also intended to attack from behind while Leon was distracted. She wrapped her sword in fire and hit down, creating a huge explosion. The smoke and fire quickly cleared and Leon was seen holding her sword tightly. Haji couldn't draw her sword, couldn't do anything more. Another person ran to support her. John Soyeon jumped up to attack from behind once more. Leon turned back with compliments. Not bad. Time for reflection is over. Master Leon is giving his lecture. It seems everyone is awake now. Let me explain. The night training program is very simple. Your body may be constantly overloaded, but the knights are different. The first team to reach the final goal would be the Knights of the Motherland. The rest would at least reach an acceptable level. John Soyeon raised his hand and asked. Your Majesty, I still don't understand the evaluation criteria? Leon replied. In my kingdom, knights are divided into 5 ranks. First are the knights of the mother country who have not received medals. Knights who show courage will receive medals and will become the subordinate of the war knight. Then there are the apprentice knights. You are those who must give up everything to fulfill the mission of the gods. You must prepare your spirit to endure decades of exile. In this way, I completed my mission to find the goddess of light and justice Asiana. Then I became a knight of the Holy Grail. Han Soho raised his hand and asked. So, Your Majesty, what is the purpose of the Holy Grail Knights? Leon replied. Okay, I guess I should explain a little more. Holy Grail Knight, that is the title given only to the Holy Grail Knight who succeeds King Leon here to the throne. To possess that title, you must challenge my power. And of course, they would be eliminated without mercy. Just to remind, the students were put under more pressure by Leon. Leon continued. Well then, this is the only chance you have to challenge me. My power has weakened a lot compared to before. Now I'm only as strong as a Holy Grail Knight. The students recalled his appearance just now and screamed in their hearts, is that weakness? Kim Jae-hyuk asked again. Ah, Your Majesty, then how strong can a Holy Grail Knight be? Leon thought. The power of a Holy Grail Knight is unpredictable. Things don't seem to be going well on this side. Hang Ziha opened her eyes and woke up. She sat up from the bed of grass and rubbed her head. Damn, it hurts. Hang Ziha held her head, trying to remember. What happened? I can't remember. From outside, a person with red hair lifted the curtain and walked in. Are you awake? Hang Ziha looked at the person who came in and asked in surprise. Huh? Who is it? The girl with red hair introduced herself as Hilda, a shaman of the Uxling tribe. Here is the heroine. Hearing this, Hang Ziha was surprised and asked back, what is a heroine? Hilda went to tell her. Thank you for trying to protect us from those evil knights. At this time, Hong Jeong-cheon from outside also lifted the curtain and came in to talk to her. Sister, you really are as tenacious as a leech. Hang Ziha asked her brother in annoyance, what's going on? Hilda smiled happily and said to Hong Jeong-cheon. Warrior Tik Kim. You're here. Hong Jeong-cheon turned his head away a little embarrassedly and replied. Well, I think we've lost him. Hang Ziha sat on the bed and rubbed her head and asked. Lost? She really didn't remember anything. Hong Jeong-cheon asked his sister. How much do you remember? She bowed her head slightly and thought. Slowly recalling the scene at that time, the ground shifted and how did we escape? Hong Jeong-cheon stood there panting, arms crossed, talking to his sister. She had lost all her memories of that day. Luckily, we managed to escape after creating a smokescreen. They only have infantry so it's hard to keep track of us. However, that monster was certainly not ordinary. He followed us all the way, then the Uxlings came and helped us. She rushed out to fight him and got hit in the head by a rock. Oh, Hang Ziha sweated a little as she imagined that scene. Then he said to his sister, thank this girl. This sorcerer saved her, took care of her and treated her for the past 2 days. After knowing the time he had been in a coma, Hang Ziha couldn't help but ask in surprise, 2 days. Where are all our doctors? Hong Jeong-cheon simply replied, for some reason they couldn't recover. Hilda, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. The Holy Grail Knight Gelbricht had the power to curse his opponents, preventing them from recovering from their wounds, an ability that was the opposite of your healing powers. Then she placed her hand on Hang Ziha's shoulder. Hang Ziha was surprised to see something purple glowing behind her shoulder. What is this? Hilda kindly explained to her. It is a magic mark I created to restore strength. I am restoring your health. It is said that this is a special ability that only exists in the tribes that live in this area. Each mark contains different powers. After being explained, Hang Ziha breathed a sigh of relief. Oh really, I have to be more careful. Hong Jeong-cheon asked his sister with concern. Anyway, can you stand up? I think we should prepare for a strategy meeting. Hearing his brother say that, Hang Ziha was a little surprised. In the meeting room now were the survivors of the battle, including the red-haired man. The Uxling chief spoke first. Over the years, the king had massacred and pillaged us, even calling us heretics. The people of Hong Jeong-cheon listened attentively. They captured us and executed us in brutal, barbaric ways. Some people tried to resist. However, 3 tribes were exterminated. In the end, we had to go to the gods to ask for help. And as a result, you, the heroes, came to save us. Hong Jeong-cheon rubbed his chin and said, that guy is quite strong. Hayuri also said, there was a group of S-rank hunters and a group of about 150 people who came here. Thinking back to what Hilda had said, Gelbricht had formidable defensive power, enough to block any attack. He even had the ability to regenerate a burned body. As long as he was alive, his entire army would be empowered by the halo. The red-haired man couldn't help but sigh. How terrifying. Then he said again, the only thing that works is the sheep bracelet. Hang Ziha standing next to him replied. Oh yes, it's fine too. She bowed her head and thought, then we should find some object or device to counter his defense. Hilda beside her was a bit puzzled about something, device, counter. Hang Ziha also just casually said, something that can penetrate his armor. Or similarly, Hilda's whole body immediately lit up when she thought of useful information and said, it seems that my tribe's fangs have that effect. The red-haired guy was quite excited about the tattoo on his arm. Tribal Fawn, 35% armor penetration, 20% strength and endurance. This thing is awesome. Now I'm ready to take on that monster. The clan leader sitting on high said, then I think we are ready. He looked at the crowd and solemnly pleaded. Heroes, please save us. If I can be of any help to you, I will do my best. On one side, in another place. It seemed like a group of people were preparing to ride horses. Someone exclaimed, wow. This horse. This is Yugal Estate, Jeju Island. After a short test and combat training, King Leon brought the students to his estate on Jeju Island. Kim Jae-hyuk stood outside the fence, looking inside excitedly, saying, oh, look at that horse. Someone from behind greeted him, oh. You're here, Your Majesty. Leon Ha tilted his head slightly and replied. I'm quite pleased with the compliment, the horses are not bad at all. Thanks for taking such good care of them over the years. As you probably know, I came here to select a horse for the race. The groom immediately said excitedly, oh my god, what an honor. We have many famous racehorse breeders at Yugal Estate. So we are very proud of our breeding team. Leon Ha patted the horse caretaker on the shoulder and said, yes, a horse is only as good as the person who raises it. I will pay a visit and see. Then he went to the crowd who were engrossed in watching the horse and said, listen, everyone. For a knight, the horse is his lifelong companion. It is important to find a way to connect with the horse and become one with it. A smile appeared on his lips. Then he said, now, approach the horse you like. Get acquainted with it and ride it. The students were extremely happy and excited when they heard this. They hurriedly ran towards their favorite horses. Leon Ha told the caretaker to please look after them. The uncle replied enthusiastically, I will do my best. Behind him, another person came. Oh my god. The queen said as she walked over. You are truly a generous person. The woman standing next to her looked a little confused. Leon Ha was extremely polite, holding the girl's hand and saying, thank you, Your Majesty, for coming to see me, even though it was a bit abrupt. Queen Bizai also politely replied. His Majesty invited me. How could I refuse? Leon Ha then said, may I have the honor of serving you, madam? Queen Bizai replied with a cheerful smile. Of course. But the expression on the maidservant's face beside her was a bit off. Seeing these two people talking happily, her face darkened. In the center of the estate, horses were leisurely grazing on the green pastures. The scene seemed extremely peaceful and refreshing. Leon Ha and Queen Bizai also had to exclaim. Not bad at all. Leon Ha asked Queen Bizai. Would you like to take a walk around? She happily agreed. Of course. What horse would Your Majesty recommend to me? He pointed to the black horse in the distance and asked. Then, how about that jet black horse? Okay? Then he turned to the maid behind him and said, choose one for yourself. The maid named Haji asked, a little surprised. Me too? Then she began to ponder her options. Finally she decided to choose the white horse. Leon Ha decided to choose the horse next to the white horse for her. The horse over there looked very healthy and strong. Not bad at all. Maid Haji had no choice but to give up. Maid Haji could only praise it. It looked cute up close. She had no choice anyway. Suddenly Leon Ha realized something was wrong. He passed Haji and said to her. Go play somewhere else. Don't bother me. Haji was also hit by him. One of Leon Ha's hands reached out. He said to Queen Bizai. Miss, please take my hand. Queen Bizai also replied politely. Thank you. Maid Haji standing on this side could only sigh. This is too much. Queen Bizai sat on the horse while Leon Ha walked on the ground leading the horse. Haji and the horse that was chewing on his hair stood there speechless. At this moment, someone suddenly came. Your Majesty. Leon Ha asked the panting man who had just arrived. What's all the noise? You've disturbed the horses. The man replied, panting. It's an important matter. Then Tihan took out his phone. The phone screen showed an emergency call from Oh Kong-hyuk. Tihan seriously picked up the phone and asked Leon Ha. I received an urgent call from the president of the association. Please answer the phone. A voice came from the phone. Good morning. Your Majesty, it's me, Oh Kong-hyuk. Lee Han-ha bowed his head to look at the person who appeared inside. Then he asked, "What's the matter?" Oh Kong-hyuk stood in front of the big screen and answered. "Your Majesty, can you help me with something? Looks like the dungeon rift is about to open." Lee Han-ha asked him, "Is it necessary to help? Am I your servant?" Oh Kong-hyuk replied, "Of course. But I thought this might interest you." Goddess of life and childbirth, upon hearing this, Lee Han-ha could not help but intervene. The self-proclaimed knight is the boss of the gate. The entire sky was red. The red gate had opened, and Lee Han-ha and his group appeared inside. Haji's eyes widened. She was extremely surprised when she saw this place. She couldn't help but exclaim. This place. It was so tragic. The surrounding scene was extremely tragic and full of death. Dead bodies everywhere are not properly disposed of and become food for crows. The weak students recently could not stand it. Lee Han-ha's expression was extremely serious. Remember when he asked Oh Kong-hyuk, "Is this the person?" He told him. Yes. This is one of the survivors who escaped from that gate. He's resting right now. If you wait a little longer, Lee Han-ha said, "There's no need." Queen Bizai spoke up from the side. "It's my turn now." Lee Han-ha guided her, relying on her. Queen Bizai's hand extended. A purple power enveloped the patient's body. Lee Han-ha said, "No need to make it complicated. Just create a new space in his dream. The person who can help me with this can only be you." Queen Bizai's whole person exuded strength. She bowed her head slightly in silence. Then she said. The man was a knight with a giant hammer. He boasted that he was protected by the goddess of life and childbirth. Lee Han-ha was a bit surprised by the information he just heard. Lee Han-ha gritted his teeth and asked her, "What is the name of that knight? Can you tell me?" Queen Bizai uttered a name, Gelbricht. Or also known as the majestic Gelbricht. Queen Bizai asked. It seemed like the corpses had been hanging for a while. Were they hunters? Lee Han-ha replied to her, judging from the shape of their bodies, it seemed like they weren't. They burned down villages and killed all those people. Their intention was to leave nothing behind on this planet. Hearing that, Queen Bizai couldn't help but turn her head to ask him, "How do you know so well?" Lee Han-ha replied, "My intention was the same when I massacred the orcs. They left here a while ago. If we follow the trail, maybe we'll find out what their plan is?" Lee Han-ha's group ran without stopping. Queen Bizai called out to him again, "Your Majesty." Lee Han-ha tilted his head slightly and said, "Go ahead." Queen Bizai said, "It seems we are in a bit of a hurry." The soldiers and the Zappaner were also quite confused. "How do you guess this?" He replied, "Your Majesty is being thoughtless. As I said before, this matter is very dangerous if you don't have enough strength. Because the Holy Grail Knight is here now." Queen Bizai asked him, "Holy Grail Knight? Are you talking about Sir Gelbricht?" Lee Han-ha said again, "Sir Gelbricht, who was highly regarded by Damara, was a Holy Grail Knight 3 generations before me. The techniques from that knight were passed down to my generation. 800 years ago, Sir Gelbricht, he set out to conquer Manji and Ascension." Haji asked with some experience, "Ascension?" Han Seho said, "He probably meant sacrifice." However, Sir Gelbricht could not go to heaven. A Holy Grail Knight would naturally become a saint blessed by God. But they did not accept his soul. Queen Bizai said in disbelief, "Impossible." Lee Han-ha continued, "They had followed the traces of the Holy Relic's energy. But they could not find him or even a part of his army. We have 3 hypotheses. First, Mr. Gelbricht is still alive. Second, his soul was lost halfway. And finally, Queen Bizai also somewhat guessed, not to mention that he betrayed them. This involves the Holy Grail Knight having super strength. If a battle were to occur, it would be impossible for it to take place in the human realm. Anyway, if we attack this gate, we'll be able to get to the root of this incident." Seeing the scene before their eyes, the group of students could not help but exclaim. Once again, they were being executed like the previous people. On this side, Lee Han-ha was also observing the scene before him. He gritted his teeth in anger, unable to believe that he would do such atrocities. It was unacceptable. They are really criminals who deserve to die. Seeing Lee Han-ha's angry appearance, Haji thought to himself, even His Majesty is angry at this tragedy. As expected, even though he was a bit strange that day, he was still an admirable person. Lee Han-ha turned her head and said to the group of students and Haji. "Haji and the rest of the students, listen up," she immediately replied. "Understood." He ordered, "From now on, no matter what happens, you can only follow me, don't overestimate your own thoughts." "Understand?" The students and Haji replied. Understood, we will only follow your majesty. Then he said, well, let's move on quickly. They must be here already. A scene of chaos, blood, and carnage. Those guys are extremely cruel and kill people without blinking an eye. Kill them all, don't leave even one person behind. The man stopped before a blazing fire. Haji turned to report to Leon Ha. Your Majesty, it is a village, the villagers are being massacred. His complexion was extremely bad. Inside could be seen a sea of blood with corpses lying in piles. From here you can see the knights in armor killing non-stop. Leon Ha roared in anger. These damn bastards. Then he rushed towards the fire and loudly said to the people behind him. Our army is in danger, come to the rescue quickly. Your Majesty. She thought to herself, I can't believe he's so angry. He can't bear to see his people being massacred. The person hurried forward, Kim Jae-hyuk behind him did not forget to sigh. He ran so fast that we could not even catch up. Leon Ha angrily charged towards it, cutting down that rage. That move looks just like when facing orcs. Suddenly Haji realized something. Wait, orc. Leon Ha still rushed forward. Extremely angry face. Haji thought of something in his heart. Don't tell me, the battlefield is in chaos right now. The knights in iron armor were fighting the tribesmen. The clan leader was busy fighting and cursing the bastards. Then suddenly he saw something. There was a man on a white horse charging towards him. He just arrived and shouted angrily. Leon Ha-ta. The sun of truth shone through the heart. Haji behind him called out to his majesty in panic. Leon Ha was still full of energy, ready to kill. I will kill you all. But in his heart, Haji was screaming. Just kill the enemy, man. Two people fell from the sky to the ground, breaking the ground. Haji called out to his majesty in panic. Those guys were beaten to the ground groaning miserably. Leon's eyes lit up like lightning as he said. You piece of trash. Don't do that again. With that, he stabbed the sword down at the guy. Leon laughed as if he had lost the will to speak loudly. You will be my next prey. Let's go, stallion. Haji was scared when he saw that scene and asked. What is he doing? The subordinate beside him also wondered. Is he crazy? Haji opened his eyes wide and thought. Oh my god. This is a massacre, isn't it? The scene before his eyes showed a smile on Leon's face as he held his sword and stabbed down at the people below. Then Haji put his hand on his weapon and said. No, we have to stop him. But before he could do anything, a purple magic appeared in front of him. Haji looked up at the queen and asked. Your Majesty. Queen Bizai smiled and said. Miss Haji. Please wait a moment. Trust him. He wouldn't do that without a good reason. Haji turned to ask. You think so? At this moment, Leon was still killing and laughing loudly. Ha ha ha. Die, you scum. Ha ha ha. 5 at once. New record. Seeing that, the two people were speechless. Haji asked in shock as he watched. Isn't it just because he likes it? Bizai replied. Her reaction was really special. The other subordinates also said. It can't be helped. That's right, there's nothing we can do. Haji gritted her teeth and said, even so. She thought to herself. The reason why they were so indifferent to such a cruel scene was not because they lacked a sense of justice. But because they are fake. The monsters and NPCs inside the gate. They are fake, just memories of the past. Except for a few survivors like queens or monsters and NPCs. Just memories of the past, nothing more, nothing less. On the other side, Leon was still killing like crazy, Haji continued thinking. So, sacrifice them or hang them on the gallows. Kim Jae-hyuk said, too barbaric. It's not much of a crime. Damn crimes, he screamed. All of you die. Red smoke billowed over a large area. Slowly the smoke also dissipated. Around the dust and smoke, defeated people lay scattered on the ground. After a while the soldiers slowly walked out. Leon, Bizai and everyone were waiting for them to come out. The others came out and opened their helmets to stare at them. Then they knelt down. Shout out in unison, salute the Holy Grail Knight, living saint of humanity. Leon said, get up, we are still on the battlefield. The leader stood up and walked closer to him, saying, I am the brother of Lord Benlik. Belonging to the Labonan Dawn Knights. I am Tokata Benlik. Leon heard and said, if you belong to the Benlik family. There must be a commercial capital near Jiangyo City. Is your younger brother the lord of that place? Tokata replied, because I alone am recognized as possessing the talents of a knight. Leon said, I assume you have not yet given up the path of crusade. Tokata continued, yes, people keep saying that this will be my last crusade. Leon replied, I see. He thought to himself, I don't remember the name Tokata Ben Lick. If he was going to become a Holy Grail Knight in the future, I should have met him in heaven. Or he might have failed and died in this crusade. I can't remember any of the faces of the people here. Can't these honorable knights make a name for themselves in the history of their country? Now Leon introduced. I am Leon the Zagonia Leon here, the legitimate Grand Duke of the Grand Dukes de Leon here. Received the patronage of the goddess of light and justice Asiana. The owner of the lion's heart, Ben Lick's men opened their eyes wide after hearing this. The person's back was always shining with a bright light. Aren't you just a farmer? Leon said with his eyes closed, farmer? What kind of knight dares to call the king a peasant? Haji and Soyan heard and thought to themselves. Well, in their generation, King Leon Ha was a different person. Tokata then said, I believe you. Haji asked silently, trying not to believe. Leon looked over and said, Knights, as I understand it, you are a mercenary team that came to destroy the Manji group. Is that right? Tokata replied darkly. That's right. Leon smiled without saying anything, then after a while said. The war knight of the ruling army. Is it Lord Gelbricht who is the Holy Grail Knight under the protection of the goddess of life and childbirth? Tokata paused for a moment but still replied. Yes. Leon said, we must go see him immediately. Where is Mr. Gelbricht? Oh, right now. They are, I think, the last remaining hunters of a separate unit. Based on their appearance. Could it be this place? Then someone from the other group came up and spoke. Sir Gelbricht is currently facing the main force of the Manji. He will quickly destroy those disgusting Manji. Leon nodded and said. Okay, he thought. Well then. The Holy Grail Knight Gelbricht was transformed by something in this war. In a certain tribe. The fence is made of wooden stakes facing each other. There are guards inside. There was a group of people standing outside, looking in with angry eyes. The leader laughed and said, very good. Anyone looking at it would think it was a mighty statue. But he said so because there was a man in armor riding a horse flying out from inside. Following behind was a group of soldiers also wearing armor. Hang Ziha stood outside and said. Is this really the Red Gate? The difficulty level must be black level. Ha Yuri replied. Still, it's worth a try. Thanks to our efforts, all the tribes in the area have gathered, our numbers are definitely greater. Yuri thought. Besides, he looked down at his hand, where a purple mark appeared. System notification. Mazel's tribal mark has been activated. Increases armor penetration by 35%. Increases strength and resistance by 20%. Mazel's tribal mark has been activated. Added stride skill. Increases agility by 15%. Chai Ocun's tribal mark has been activated. Added super strength skill. Added bronze skin skill. He UC Yuri's tribal mark has been activated. Added magic resistance skill. Reduced magic damage by 30%. After activating it, Yuri continued to think. Used to subdue the divine beasts of Master Dong and the native tribe. So that was the function of these seals. Everyone had battle stance marks on their bodies, thinking with a smile. Okay, we can handle him. The armored man saw this and said. Huh, if that's the case, surviving mercenaries. I will condemn you for ignorance, why are you here? Li Zhongjian raised his bow and laughed. We have been thoughtful enough to finish you off. He thought to himself, the final request is to defeat the majestic Gelbricht. Gelbricht looked at him with murderous eyes and said. I will give you ignorant and delusional people a chance. Hand over all your weapons and leave this place now. Otherwise you will commit a serious crime. Zhongjian Engian Zhang said. Guilt? Really? Don't you feel ashamed to mention sin? Does the word justice you always mention not spare anyone, whether old or young? Hearing that, Gelbricht frowned without saying anything. He raised his gavel and said loudly, those heretics. I am not ashamed to look up to the sky. Nor humiliated to look down to the ground. For my actions are justice. You have crossed the limit of your endurance. I will punish you. Hilda clasped her hands and said. O warriors. Zhongjian said loudly. Activate defensive skills. Can't use them often. If we can dodge it once. The power named Gelbricht is gathering a huge source of power. The knight raised his sword and said. I swear to protect the kingdom. Those who entrust their fate to the gods. That strong belief focused on one person. Someone wondered. What the hell? Those knights spoke loudly. We, the knights of the motherland, the retainers of the venerable Holy Grail Knight. We will use this power to destroy evil. Gelbricht then flew up under that power. And then, before the glorious light of the true gods. Get on your knees. Then he slammed his hammer into the air. The moment the miracle struck. The other force also attacked below, causing the ground to collapse. A being chosen by the gods. The goddess of light and justice, who rules over all knights and carries out the duty of enforcing justice, who grants knights the power to ascend to divine status. The punishment of God. Only a group of knights participate in this ritual, however the specific form of each ritual varies depending on the deity that each Holy Grail Knight worships. The Holy Grail Knights under the protection of the goddess of life and fertility have the ability to crush the earth. Li Zhongjian muttered dumbly, it was nonsense. Hang Ziha couldn't believe it, his eyes wide open staring straight ahead, but what the hell? What the hell is that thing? Hong Jiangqion gritted his teeth and said softly, with just a single movement nearly 3,000 tribal warriors evaporated. Luckily we didn't fall for that trick. Damn, is that thing even human? I can't win. The Holy Grail Knight respectfully said softly, Goddess. Please protect us on the sacred land to become the solid ground for my brothers and sisters to walk strong and steady. And to give those who have gone astray a chance to cleanse the dirt of this world. The knight frowned slightly. Shout out, get out you despicable heretics. Li Zhongjian is stressed, huh? The main force quickly stopped them, attacked from all sides and surrounded them. We have the advantage in numbers. Holy Grail Knight's attack missed. Everyone quickly moved to safety. Watch the knight warily. A sword flashed straight towards the knight. A hunter tries his best to attack the knight. Protect everyone. The knight exclaimed with interest, unable to believe that a mercenary had this power. Is it because of the tribal mark that the hunter still struggles to resist the knight? The hunters forgot their existence. Even though they cannot walk the path of honor to fulfill the god's mission. The hunter could not believe it. Suddenly a flash of light, a huge explosion shook everything. To make a name for themselves they traveled across continents and became revered heroes. To deal with this group of people, the knight said while taking off his helmet. Order all the knights of the motherland to dismount and form a defensive formation. It has been decades since they became swordsmen, with hundreds of years of experience swinging swords they have proven their natural talent as true swordsmen. They were brave warriors who destroyed many wild beasts and heretics and stopped the invasion plans of foreign enemies. Wild beasts with boundless physical strength were not opponents they could fear. This knight of the motherland's face was full of madness as he shouted, give glory to the revered gods. Hearing that, Li Zhongjian couldn't help but curse under his breath, damn it. Hong Jiangqion frowned and spoke, the soldiers behind are also preparing to charge, we are being completely crushed in this battle of strength. Li Zhongjian replied irritably, everyone knows. If we are going to retreat, we must do so now. Hearing Hong Jiangqion say so, Hang Ziha disagreed and asked, why do we have to retreat? Hong Jiangqion replied seriously, if even our night squad can't beat it, how can we defeat the boss? We can't do it alone. Li Zhongjian also thought, if he asked for help from the 10 strongest guilds, he might be able to conquer this gate, but what if he escaped from the dungeon before? Hong Jiangqion spoke softly, actually there was a better way to end this. Li Zhongjian heard that and looked at him expectantly, trying to say it. Hong Jiangqion asked softly, Ariana goddess of light and justice. Demera goddess of life and fertility, have you never heard of them? Li Zhongjian replied indifferently, I don't know, I'm not interested in religion. What does religion and the gate have to do with this? Hong Jiangqion said thoughtfully, it seems that guy is from the same kingdom. With the people at this gate on the first day, I thought he was quite the arrogant guy for calling himself some kind of paladin. Li Zhongjian fell into deep thought, if that king was from the same country as these knights, then he should retreat. Hilda walked over and called out softly, warriors. Li Zhongjian turned to look at Miss Hilda. Hilda anxiously looked at Li Zhongjian and his group and pleaded, do you really want to abandon us? Li Zhongjian didn't look at her and softly replied, we will bring reinforcements soon. We're just taking a step back to wait for the right moment. Talking to the NPC won't help, so let it be. Tell the guild members that we're retreating, we must leave this gate as soon as possible. Hilda felt like she was falling into a lonely darkness, after all. It seemed like she couldn't defeat these monsters this time either. Li Zhongjian suspiciously called her, Miss Hilda. Hilda bit her nails frantically, unable to believe you guys never closed the gate. Disgusting creatures. Seeing that her spirit was not well, Li Zhongjian asked again, what was she saying? Hilda desperately muttered, "It's over, I have no choice but to take a shortcut. I'm pretty sure he won't like you either, useless people like you are not wanted by anyone." Hilda snapped her fingers. A red aura surrounded Hilda's body. Everyone looked at her in horror. The Knight of the Motherland shouted in horror, "I'm using evil magic." The person who had collapsed and lay on one side suddenly coughed up blood. "They guys are very scary." The people here still did not know that disaster was coming and felt lucky and shouted loudly, "Wow, the great divine beast is bestowing grace. We will get it soon too." Li Zhongjan gritted his teeth and looked at Hilda, asking her, "What the hell are you doing?" Hilda sneered in response, "Oh, honorable warrior, it is useless to resist, it is a mark I recently created." But it was only a matter of time. Li Zhongjan struggled. Hilda laughed happily and said, "Now everyone, kill all the Holy Grail Knights and their followers for me, let's start the game again." "Oh my god, I don't know how many worlds I've been to and I still haven't been able to kill one." The people heard the order and immediately rushed to attack frantically. The Holy Grail Knights were surrounded. Everyone rushed forward as if they didn't care about their lives. The Holy Grail Knight blocked the attack and angrily shouted, "You guys! It seems that they have been branded by the person who is chasing them. Peel off the skin that contains the mark, their weak point." The ground shook violently. Both Hang Ziha and Ha Yuri were restrained, viciously attacking the Holy Grail Knight. The strength of both of them was not ordinary and blew away the Holy Grail Knight. Even though they were sent flying, the Holy Grail Knight did not forget to deal them a fatal blow. The explosion was deafening. Li Zhongjan was already being controlled and stared at the Holy Grail with a vicious gaze. "You guys are being rude, things are not going well. Even if it means burning yourself, you must send the survivors to the capital." The Holy Grail Knight struggled to land and spoke weakly, "These people are being insolent, the situation is not good. Even if we have to burn ourselves, we must send the survivors to the capital." Determined, the knight slammed his sword into the ground. "Ha, all you lowlifes go up." Suddenly someone shouted glory to Lian Ha. A light fell from the sky and blew everything away. The Holy Grail Knight looked on in amazement. "Who are you?" Lian Ha chuckled and replied, "The king's words were the heart of a lion. Leon the Zaganir Lian Ha. The king's reigns, the reigns of His Majesty the King, can tame any ferocious beast and awaken the ancient bloodline. Give me the reins and jump straight down, your majesty is truly a wild beast." Queen Bizai smiled gently and talked to the little horse. "Was it Stalin? Thank you for being so obedient and letting me hold the reins." 5 minutes ago, Lian Ha was gritting his teeth angrily and scolding the rats to stop. Obviously they were killed, their forces were also reduced, but they always found somewhere to revive. Han Haji spoke in confusion, "Forgive me, but skinning children to death is a bit too much." Lian Ha coldly replied, "They are not that stupid. The main reason is that mark." Han Haji asked doubtfully, "A mark?" Lian Ha said with hatred, "It was an oath to dedicate one's body to the divine beast. If one abused the power of the seal, then from that moment on the user's soul would gradually rot from within." Han Haji couldn't believe what he was hearing. "No way, what divine beast, then it must be a demon." Lian Ha said coldly, "Remember this. Your feelings of peace and human rights are meaningless in this bitter battle. All that is needed is absolute truth and destiny." Queen Bizai sat on Stalin's back and charged into the front line, saying, "I must also do my duty." Queen Bizai extended her hand, and power slowly released. Countless large and small matrices appeared in the sky. Queen Bizai spoke coldly, "Get out of my sight." Back to the present, the Holy Grail Knight bows to King Lian Ha. Lian Ha fell into thought, the enemy still charged forward despite the Holy Grail Knight's attack. It proves that the laws in Lord Gelbrick's territory are problematic. Lian Ha spoke up to give orders to the Holy Grail Knights of Demera. "First we need to get out of this mess." The Holy Grail Knight replied, "Okay, but why bother?" Lian Ha silently looked ahead and said, "I think I should cut off the connection of those pathetic bastards." Ta Lian Ha, open the gates to heaven. The Holy Grail Knight opened his eyes wide in surprise. That was, how could the Holy Grail be here? Lian Ha shouted softly, "Great custom." A blinding light appeared. Bright light radiates everywhere. The Holy Grail Knight couldn't believe it, "Oh my god." Here, the other knights looked at their intact body in amazement, the wound was healed. "Oh my god, my arm is back." The people who were restrained also slowly regained their senses. It hurts. This is a miracle from the gods, how could I not see it? It seems like I completely forgot about this. The Holy Grail Knight looked at the shining golden light and muttered, "Holy power." Suddenly a gentle voice rang out, "My child, the lost knight. The Holy Grail Knight of the goddess Demera. Follow him, go and support the Night King. No questions, no hesitation." I will obey your orders, simply obey. Lianha turned his head to look at the Holy Grail Knight and smiled slightly. I'm glad we can fight together in this fight, Mr. Gelbricht. Gelbricht walked to Lianha's side and softly replied, I will be by your side, guardian of the Holy Grail. Lianha smiled back, okay. The dead monsters are gathering in one place, are they reborn? Hilda saw everything destroyed. She cursed in hatred, damn it, one Holy Grail Knight was enough. What the hell is this now? She shouted loudly, offering her great sacrifice. Please take all those slaves. A screaming monster, Lianha. I will tear you to pieces. Queen Bizai stepped forward and whispered, letting me clear the way. The little horse spread its wings. Crouch down. Use force to flap the wings once, a large matrix appears, covering the whole sky. The queen used her skill. Divine Eye. A stream of power from the matrix shot out. Hit the ground, creating a loud bang. The monster roared in anger, Lianha. Lianha walked slowly, listen here my brothers and sisters, glorious knights and loyal soldiers. Those vile heretics are due for execution. In a forest, Hilda. Struggling to escape into the deep forest. Damn monsters, damn Holy Grail Knight. The name Gelbricht alone is enough. Die and become fertilizer for this earth. Where did that King Lianha come from, and the witch too? As she was about to go somewhere, a voice suddenly rang out, causing Hilda to stop. What? This thing is called a soul stone. I got this while hunting inside the gate. Queen Bizai walked over holding a purple crystal in her hand. It was said to be a new resource for concentrating magic power. This gate was very strange. Even if you kill tens or millions of monsters, they are still everywhere. Hilda screamed madly. What was her aunt saying? Not letting her finish, Bizai coldly looked at her and said, this gate is also a cycle, right? Just like me in my own world. I don't think you're a demon, but you did the exact same thing. Hilda couldn't believe her ears. It couldn't be. Bizai walked closer to her and said softly, I have many questions for you. Hilda was stunned. She didn't consider herself an NPC. Bizai walked over and looked Hilda in the eye threateningly. This is not my favorite method, but I will pay attention. A red light wrapped around Hilda. She was terrified. What is this? Bizai smiled happily and looked behind her and said, Master. Gloomy voice rang out, you let us down again. Now you don't even recognize your master, and yet Hilda saw that thing and was scared. Holy shit. Bizai smiled wickedly and asked Hilda. What now? Your slave is now mine. What will you do? The gloomy voice rang out again, show me your abilities. Seed of pleasure, I will chew you up and swallow you whole. Hilda struggled desperately and shouted, no. The gods will descend to earth, this gate is the kingdom of the divine beasts. Once the incarnations of the divine beasts descend, this gate will. Queen Bizai silently said, then it's dangerous. The space gate is gradually cracking, but it seems that people are unaware. They were all busy treating the wounded from the recent battle. Lianha confided in Gelbricht. Leon the Zagonia Leona, the 11th King Leon here. He often spoke of the soldiers on the frontier. Gelbricht heard this and hesitantly asked. You know His Majesty? Lianha replied. Yes, that king is currently in heaven. Gelbricht was extremely surprised when he heard that. He was somewhat stunned by what he just said. Suddenly, where did Han Haji come from? She seemed to have seen the expression on the Green Knight's face, so she asked. Did you remember something? Gelbricht turned to look at Han Haji and replied. I don't remember anymore. We only came here to subdue the Manzi. Knowing that he could no longer hide the matter of the dungeon, Haji turned around and looked at Lianha expectantly. His Majesty, King Lianha also wanted Han Haji to say it out loud. They should know that too. Just say it. Han Haji's face darkened. She was no longer as cheerful as usual. She told herself. Sir Gelbricht and the soldiers are not allowed to leave this gate. Because everyone is just characters inside the gate. To close the gate we must defeat Sir Gelbricht here. Gelbricht looked at Hajin without saying anything. Then suddenly he laughed out loud. He. This laughter made Han Haji feel extremely bitter. Mr. Gelbricht. The Green Knight showed no signs of cooling down. He laughed harder and harder. Ka. Ha. Ha. Knight Gelbricht laughed and then put down the handle of his axe. He said firmly. Your Majesty. After all these years, it seems I haven't lost a single match. Gelbricht's face was jubilant. The other hand tapped on the armor, the hand raised to the chest with pride. Lianha closed his eyes and replied happily. I'm not surprised because if you were defeated once, you wouldn't have had the chance to meet the king. Suddenly, the sunset sky began to split open. From somewhere, a piercing scream rang out. Leon Ha! I will chew you up and swallow you whole. A creature appeared from the broken fragment, from the sky of the dungeon. Its eyes and mouth were red with an extremely adorable face, looking down at the people below. Realizing that the disaster had begun, Leon Ha turned back to ask the person behind him. Is there any way to stop the divine beast's attack? The person just laughed. Queen Bizai caught Hilda, she laughed and said. No, this gate is broken. The Great Shintan will use his mighty power to destroy this place. Hearing that, Leon Ha said with determination. Okay. Then I will fight. Because how can I leave my people to fight alone? Hearing that, Bizai approached him and reminded him. Your Majesty, I don't think it's a wise idea to confront him directly. Leon Ha knew that too. In any case, he had no other choice. As a knight, it was his duty to not let him escape into the real world. Gelbricht had been silent until now. He only spoke after listening to the two people. No, I have a way. Gelbricht stepped forward. Leon Ha heard this and called out in surprise. Mr. The Green Knight raised his hand. A bright light appeared on the palm of his hand. Gelbricht suddenly stabbed his hand into his stomach. The sound of broken iron was painful. As a knight, this wound was nothing to Gelbricht. He only let out a sigh. Han Haji saw this action and shouted in worry. Sir Gelbricht. He, Gelbricht, shouldered his axe. He held his crystal heart in his hand and said firmly. It is I, Gelbricht, who must fall. He looked back. Said to everyone. Please stand aside. And continue living your lives. He looked at Leon Ha and said. Fighting for a gate that will soon disappear would be pointless. Your Majesty. Hearing that, Leon Ha clenched his teeth. He knew that sacrifice was the spirit of a brave knight. But he seemed unable to accept this. Looking at the group of knights preparing in front of him, he knew that they had always lived with loyalty and strong faith. Gelbricht shouted now. The final battle was before him. This was where the lion-hearted king, who also represented the glory of the gods, resided. Above all, we who have died or fought for the bright future of those who are still alive. We are willing to sacrifice this life. Will everyone follow me? His strong and decisive words made everyone look at them in surprise. The blonde knight raised his hand without saying anything and looked up. And not just him. All the knights under Gelbricht did as well. A sudden, painful scream rang out, echoing terrifyingly. The knights had dug out their so-called hearts, witnessing this scene. Leon Ha was stunned. He, the king, raised his hand to his chest. Sincerely speaking. Your loyalty makes me ashamed. I hereby accept this noble task. Seeing them about to leave, Gelbricht turned to Leon Ha and said, Sir, I have one more request. Please wait a little longer, he also agreed. Okay. Mr. Gelbricht turned back. His heart caught in his throat. His breathing quickened. The feeling of separation made him stop. Gelbricht is mighty, respectfully speaking. O Goddess Demera. Please grant my wish. Blue powers radiated from the knights. Gelbricht raised his battle axe that he had been using for years. A powerful green light radiated from it. He continued, speaking boldly. Loyal servants of King Leon here. Recognized by the goddess Demera. By the power of this hammer you shall inherit the power of Gelbricht. The power of the brave hearts of the knights. Sucked into Gelbricht's axe. The crystal hearts glowed. They slowly broke apart. Transforms into power for Gelbricht's axe. The axe was covered with power. Suddenly it shined with years of use. This power surprised Leon Ha. He stared at the axe in Gelbricht's hand. The light just went out. Knight Gelbricht reached out and handed the axe to Leon Ha. Gelbricht respectfully said, Your Majesty, please. Until the person who can hold this hammer appears before Your Majesty. Leon Ha walked over. He held the hammer and said to Gelbricht. I'm not sure if there is anyone who can use a hammer as skillfully as you. Leon Ha reached out and touched Mr. Gelbricht's arm. His hand was covered in blood. Gelbricht closed his eyes, it was an honor to be by your side. Leon Ha replied, hearing this. I will remember your noble sacrifice. Lord Gelbricht. Then, Leon Ha took the axe and left. Gelbricht and the knights returned. As commander, Gelbricht said to everyone. Knights with heads still attached to their necks. This is the final order. Keep the king safe until his last breath. All the knights shouted in unison. Yes, sir. Behind him, MANHWA gritted his teeth. Hearing the knight speak, his heart was filled with bitterness. MANHWA gave the order and withdrew his troops. Glanced at the crowd leaving behind. Mr. Gelbricht turned back and looked forward. He knew that this was the mission he needed to do. Looking at the knights before him, the blue-haired knight handed him his sword. Gelbricht pointed his sword to the sky and shouted, I am Gelbricht, the one who defeated 1,000 enemies of this kingdom by himself. A war knight who can destroy 5 million enemies. Defended Johann's territory against 300,000 orcs. Fought the orc boss in Montreal and won. Demetra protected me. Ariana took care of me. And Petos was pleased. I am the great knight of Montreal. I am Gelbricht, the holy grail of life and fertility. From the sky the monster's claws strike down. Gelbricht and his comrades were ready to fight to the last breath. Now let us go. Brothers and sisters, today we will die for a just cause. Space now appears thousands of monsters. Hands appear from space one after another. The knights took up positions to prepare to fight the monsters. Gelbricht, the Holy Grail Knight. He said strongly. Glory to Leon here. Back to MANHWA's group. Seeing MANHWA looking into the distance in a daze, Han Haji immediately reminded him. Your Majesty. Turned back and saw everyone still waiting for him. MANHWA just coldly said one sentence. I told you to go first. Seeing that he didn't want to go back, Han Haji said gently. I think we should stick together until the end. MANHWA heard that and didn't know what to say. He had no choice but to accept and follow these people back. Suddenly from afar, a loud explosion from the battle of the Knight Gelbricht. Everyone looked up in that direction. Han Haji couldn't hide her emotions. She sighed. Tell MANHWA. Your Majesty, MANHWA also doesn't care much. Pay attention to what Han Haji said. Sweat poured out of him. MANHWA wanted to watch this match to the end. And so the battle unfolded before everyone's eyes. Image of Gelbricht, despite his body being covered in wounds. Still fighting strongly without retreating. He held the sword tightly in his hand. He fought until his last breath. Suddenly a bitter scream unexpectedly rang out. MANHWA was therefore surprised. It was the monster's voice. Another cry. He wondered. The monster in front of him. Was it hurt? But blood from the axe dripped onto MANHWA's hand. Knowing those people had not survived. MANHWA's hand trembled as he gripped Gelbricht's staff. They were dead. MANHWA's eyes were full of murderous intent. He let out a rare angry voice. Lost control and screamed. They will definitely pay for this. I, MANHWA, will give them the most cruel death. Finished speaking. MANHWA walked towards the gate. Remind everyone. Let's go. Saw the sacrifice before his eyes. Just like he had faced it so many times. The Knight of the Holy Grail. The one who upholds justice by holy law. Witnessed it countless times. I will remember this day, said the knight, filled with murderous intent. Yes, that is for sure. This promise will definitely be kept by him. A set of shirts was neatly folded on the bench. The owner of the shirt is MANHWA, who was practicing like crazy. Each sword strike was powerful, as if speaking MANHWA's heart. Arms swinging continuously. MANHWA recalled the scene of that rainy night. In the rain, he held the cold body of his comrade. MANHWA's screams tore through the night sky. It was heartbreaking beyond description. MANHWA had an indescribable feeling when recalling that memory. After a while of practicing, MANHWA also stopped. He breathed heavily. MANHWA held his forehead with his hands. His face showed the fatigue that had accumulated over time. MANHWA thought to himself, thinking back to before. He didn't even feel tired at all when he was slaughtering demons. So what's affecting me now? The image of his comrades fighting shoulder to shoulder flashed through MANHWA's mind. He had discovered the cause. And MANHWA laughed at himself. Right. I get it. I'm scared of losing everything I hold dear. Again. I'm so scared. Fear of a future where I have to fight alone again. And MANHWA thought negatively to himself. But this was a burden he had to bear alone. Who could he share it with? Ah, Your Majesty. You're here. MANHWA looked at the source of the call. Han Haji poked his head out from behind the door and asked kindly, why are you practicing so late? MANHWA bluntly exposed Han Haji. Do you usually rest at this time? Watch romantic movies or something? Han Haji was embarrassed. Blushing, he stammered. That. Recently. Well. Han Haji quickly found an excuse. I just feel like I should train more to increase my strength. Leon Ha asked in disbelief. All of a sudden? No, it's not all of a sudden. After saying this, Han Haji tried to avoid Leon Ha's judgmental gaze. Han Haji added. It's just that, I feel like I've realized and learned a lot of things recently while following you. Leon Ha was suspicious. Is that so? Leon Ha took out another sword and said. Take the sword and show me your ability. Han Haji was surprised and did not believe it but still quickly replied. Yes, your majesty. Then Han Haji bowed and clasped his hands respectfully and said. I am extremely honored to practice with you. But in Leon Ha's mind, he was thinking. When will she stop speaking like that? Leon Ha had that thought because Han Haji always used a very old Korean dialect to communicate with Leon Ha. Han Haji held his sword firmly and was ready to practice. Leon Ha ordered. Raise your sword. Han Haji replied. Yes, your majesty. Leon Ha informed Han Haji in advance. You take this attack. As soon as he finished speaking, Leon Ha disappeared before Han Haji's bewilderment. Han Haji still had not figured out the current situation. Then Leon Ha appeared like a demon right behind Han Haji. And Han Haji felt it and turned around to block Leon Ha's attack. Even though he blocked it, Han Haji secretly commented. He's too strong. Leon Ha only needed to practice with one hand, and at the same time Leon Ha also gave instructions to Han Haji. Both hands must always be ready to fight. Lower your center of gravity a little and you will be more agile. Lower it even more and your speed will increase a lot. Yes, your majesty. Han Haji obediently followed Leon Ha's instructions. Leon Ha jumped up high, preparing to strike a decisive blow from above. Han Haji opened his mouth in surprise. But Han Haji was also very quick to raise his sword to block Leon Ha's attack. Leon Ha continued to instruct Han Haji. Step back with one foot to gain a stance. Try not to be pushed back too far by the weight of the two swords clashing. Han Haji obediently followed. And it worked. Han Haji was beaming with joy. Oh, I can block it. Before he finished speaking, Leon Ha had already chopped Han Haji in the middle of his forehead. And the red mark was right in the middle of his forehead. Han Haji glared at Leon Ha with a resentful face. And Leon Ha talked a lot about Han Haji's weakness. Your movements are too simple, it's easy to see the weak points. How many times do I have to say it? Quick and sharp. What's the advantage behind creating space for an enemy? Han Haji replied hesitantly. Probably to use skills to defeat him. Leon Ha sighed helplessly. That's not it. Don't think that the only way to win is to use skills quickly. What's the point if you die without even having time to defend yourself? Before you attack, you need to observe your opponent. Han Haji's eyes lit up as if he had just realized the truth. Really, really? In contrast to Han Haji's feelings, Leon Ha asked back with a dark face. What, don't you understand? Han Haji could only avoid those deadly gazes and hummed in response. It's nothing, your majesty, I understand. Leon Ha used a judgmental gaze to lean closer and ask. What, say it again? Han Haji hesitated for a moment before answering. I thought, you would tell me to sacrifice myself to the death with the enemy if the situation forced me. For the honor of a knight, for glory. Leon Ha was surprised and startled by Han Haji's every word. Leon Ha was silent for a moment, wanting to say something but stopped. Immediately, he used his sword to knock on Han Haji's head and said one word, idiot. Leon Ha said, you should not sacrifice that honor and glory for anyone. There is no reason to imitate those knights. What you need is to protect your life. Han Haji was bewildered and didn't understand. Someone to dedicate himself to, someone to protect. Leon Ha gently smiled and looked at the silly Han Haji. Then turn around and leave without forgetting to remind. Enough, you rest and practice more next time. Yes, your majesty. Leon Ha's head was covered with black lines again by Han Haji's dialect. Han Haji tilted his head, confused about Leon Ha's previous emotions. The quiet night had fallen. In the peaceful room, Han Haji said. I feel like your majesty is lacking positive energy these days. Zapaner exclaimed Kirik in response. The abnormal biological reaction from your majesty is caused by some stress. Han Haji exclaimed but didn't understand and asked stupidly. Can you speak more clearly? I don't understand what you're saying. Zapaner explained helplessly. Stress needs to be relieved. Tension, you're right. Your Majesty must have thought a lot after that dungeon incident. Han Haji asked the Zappaner. Do you know what your Majesty likes to do? Zappaner was silent for a long moment, thinking. Then respond to Han Haji. Research information. All creatures love to play games. Need activities that help lift the spirit and rest properly. Game. Perfect for relieving stress. Han Haji innocently asked further. Does His Majesty play games? Can't imagine what kind of games he likes to play. Can you think of anything His Majesty would like? The Zappaner was silent for a long time thinking. Then he replied irritably. Games are suitable for increasing the dopamine levels of an organic substance. It makes people excited and happy. But I am a robot, so that is not in my calculations. Han Haji looked at the Zappaner and thought to himself. Why didn't he just say it didn't know? It was too much reasoning. Han Haji clapped his hands as a perfect idea flashed through his mind. That's right, I think His Majesty will like it too. Then Han Haji talked endlessly into the Zappaner. After listening to Han Haji's long story, the Zappaner had the chance to speak. I cannot deny that it is a plan that suits His Majesty at this time. But that was just a lucky coincidence. You can never reach my genius calculation ability. Hearing the Zappaner's boastful words, Han Haji couldn't stay still and covered his mouth to laugh a few sarcastic sentences. Yes, that's probably it. But it depends on the situation, hee hee. The Zappaner's face turned red with anger. It looked like she was mocking me. That's not the kind of attitude an organic matter should have towards another person. But I won you over. And so the war of words between the Zappaner and Han Haji went on for a long time. On the other side, the temple was still lit. The lights clearly illuminated the statue of the goddess Ariana. At the foot of the statue, Lianha knelt down and listened to the goddess' instructions. Dear knight, your willingness makes the gods happy. But I am worried. Lianha placed his hand on his left chest and bowed his head slowly. I apologize. The goddess spoke to Lianha again. He had defeated the demons and had suffered in life for the past 200 years. He had trained and never rested. You should enjoy some entertainment. It's time for you to rest for a while. The goddess with her chin in her hands was watching Lianha on the other side. Lianha also had to speak the truth. Entertainment, I haven't heard this word in a long time. The goddess smiled and said. Yes, it seems that this peaceful era has many forms of entertainment. It is different from what it was before. I am not sure if there is anything that my king can enjoy here. But, entertainment always exists unchanged through time. It makes people erase fatigue. Lianha asked respectfully. Is there such a thing, goddess? The goddess did not hesitate to give the solution that every man always desired. Sleeping with women, that was the best way to relieve fatigue through all ages. Lianha could only keep his mouth shut after hearing that. The goddess did not hesitate to suggest a partner to Lianha. In my eyes, the queen is a good lover for him. Or what about that little red-haired girl? Lianha immediately refused the goddess' suggestion of Han Haji. Goddess, she is a young and innocent girl. How could I suggest such a thing to her? The goddess ignored him and went straight to the point. She was a grown woman, your majesty. Humans found pleasure and relief by sleeping with the women they loved. After all, your majesty needs to restore the royal family and have an heir. Humans find joy and relief through marrying the woman they love. After all, he needed to rebuild the royal family. Lianha understood the goddess's words in their entirety. He still had something difficult to say. But, the words had barely left his mouth when there was a call and a knock on the door behind him. Your majesty, your majesty. Lianha knew who the other person was and coldly said. I told you to take care of yourself. Han Haji poked his head out from behind the door and said. Your majesty, you told me to listen to this. There was something I had prepared. Han Haji ran halfway into the shrine and fell flat on his face. Lianha looked on, speechless. And Lianha said words that were extremely mentally damaging. You possess quick fighting ability. But the way you act reminds me of a fish out of water. Lianha asked. What's the matter? Han Haji immediately raised his face and said with a purple face. There is something I have prepared for your majesty. Lianha was surprised. What? Han Haji said honestly. I received the advice and help of Mr. Zappaner. Lianha heard this name and his face turned black with anger. The advice and help of Zappaner. Then Lianha angrily knocked Han Haji on the head. If you appear before me in that sick outfit again, I will make you run around the neighborhood naked. Understand? Han Haji blushed and protested, feeling wrongly accused. No, that wasn't it. The space gate was already open. There were many people standing guard around. Kim Jin-soo realized Leon Ha had arrived. Your Majesty. Leon Ha asked. I heard from Han Haji. What is it? Kim Jin-soo immediately replied. Yes, Your Majesty, please allow me to explain. The entire association joined forces to help Assistant Department Head Han Haji with the event she had planned. Leon Ha was puzzled. Planned. And told himself. I thought it wouldn't be strange since Sir Zappaner was also involved. Han Haji looked at Leon Ha excitedly and said. Your Majesty, please enter the gate. I'm sure you'll like it. Leon Ha hummed and looked at Han Haji's expectant face and agreed. All right. They both walked through the gate. On the other side of the gate was a lush green forest. There was golden sunlight shining everywhere. The rustling wind tried to dispel the awkward atmosphere. There were many people at the gate. Han Haji stepped in front of Leon Ha. Standing on the side of the group was Kim Jin-soo. He said with his hands on his hips. Now I will explain this gate. On the contrary, Leon Ha's emotions were petrified. Han Haji happily explained. This gate is called the hunting ground. Many kinds of animals and monsters live here. Sir, look here. Han Haji pointed at the board that Kim Jin-soo was forced to hold. And forced an industrial smile. Small animals were 1 point. Medium ones were 3 points. An orc was worth 10 points because they were rarer. Leon Ha hummed. Rubbing his chin, he realized and said. So it's a kind of hunting game. Han Haji said extremely happily. That's right, it's hunting, Your Majesty. Han Haji pointed 2 fingers and said with a red face. I was thinking maybe where His Majesty used to live. Hunting might be a trend. The corner of Leon Ha's mouth lifted slightly. There are compliments for Han Haji. So you have prepared a hunting ground for me to enjoy. That is very kind. And Han Haji was smiling because he was praised. Leon Ha also had some anticipation. It's been a long time since I last went hunting. I don't know if I'll be able to do anything. Going deeper into the forest, the trees become denser. It is a great shelter for hunting animals. The orc's miserable roar rang out. A fatal arrow was lodged right in the middle of its head. The one who shot the arrow was none other than Leon Ha. He was immersed in the excitement of hunting. He drew his bow and aimed 3 arrows at the target at once. Hunting instead of fighting was also fun. Inside the village, the orcs were in great panic because of the screams of their brethren. Who dares to kill our people? Leon Ha wordlessly aimed at the orc that had just opened its mouth. How dare a filthy beast like you open your mouth in front of me? Die, all of you. Han Haji was stunned, not expecting Leon Ha to be so interested. He was enjoying it. I guess that was good. Leon Ha broke off a fong from the down orc. And Leon Ha was standing in the middle of the aftermath, where orc corpses were strewn around Leon Ha's feet. He put each fong into his pocket. A hunter should always bring back a souvenir from his hunt. Han Haji cautiously stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, you are very skilled with bows and arrows. Han Haji looked at Leon Ha and said to himself. I thought he hated using ranged weapons. As if reading Han Haji's mind. Leon Ha looked at the bow and arrow and said. It seems you misunderstood. Just because I am a knight does not mean I do not know how to use ranged weapons. Hunting was a noble's pastime. Especially for knights errant and knights on far-flung missions. They needed to provide food for themselves wherever they went. So, the knight had no choice but to master hunting. Han Haji also had words of praise. But here, you are really good at this. Leon Ha immediately patted his chest in pride. I am famous as the strongest champion in history. But I was only the second best hunter at that time. Han Haji asked in surprise. You are the second best hunter? Then who is the other first Holy Grail Knight? Leon Ha laughed and explained. I don't think we can call her a Holy Grail Knight. Goddess of the moon and hunting, you should keep an eye on her. Because she is more of a hunter than a knight. Leon Ha pulled out the arrow stuck in the orc and looked at it, remembering the girl and continued. She was once the head of the Temple of Light and the representative of the best hunters. She was once a high priest. Her arrows are like shooting stars. If she used all her strength, that arrow could easily fly over a mountain. Ha! Han Haji's face showed disbelief. He thought to himself about Leon Ha's seemingly ridiculous words. Perhaps that was possible in his previous world. Han Haji couldn't help but ask, but why are you only hunting orcs? Didn't I prepare a lot of animals for you? Lianha didn't hesitate to explain the reason. I'm sorry. But to get first place in a race, you must hunt the most valuable targets. Han Haji was a little surprised but thought to himself. Does he really see the orcs as prey? Lianha took out a strange piece of wood and said to Han Haji. Anyway, I got something strange. It feels like it's cursed. Ah, your majesty is right. Han Haji explained, the log was emitting a blue aura in Lianha's hand. It was a cursed totem. It was quite rare. Lianha thought for a moment, then suddenly threw it to Han Haji and said, sell this and give the money to the people who helped gather the animals. Han Haji was surprised by Lianha's decision and asked again. Sir, are you sure, your majesty? This is worth hundreds of millions. I'm sure it will be a good treat for them. Those who have to come here and work hard under the sun on their day off. Han Haji also turned back to look at everyone who was exhausted from following Lianha to clean up the battlefield. Lianha turned around and said coldly. Now then, come with me, I can see the footprints of the escaped orcs. Han Haji couldn't help but stammer in shock. You're still going hunting. Lianha used the most contemptuous look and voice when speaking of the orcs. The beasts were still alive and polluting this forest. They might be fake, but the orcs still had to be exterminated. Han Haji was speechless when he heard that. Now follow me, I will show you how to use the bow and arrow. Han Haji obediently trotted after Lianha. Yes, my king. Han Haji walked next to Lianha and said. But, I'm glad that you seem to be in a much better mood than before. And Han Haji smiled beautifully and brightly like the sun. And that smile was captured in Lianha's eyes. Lianha looked away, trying to calm himself down. It had been a long time since someone had treated him well, without expecting anything in return. Lianha said, I'm proud of you. Sorry, I didn't hear clearly. Lianha didn't repeat himself and continued. Use the techniques I taught you to kill at least 3 orcs. Otherwise I will be angry. Sorry, I have only used a bow and arrow a few times, your majesty. Time passed to the next day in the vast Pantheon Guild training ground. Han Haji was pushing a huge toolbox but was not tired at all and was happily singing. She is in a good mood. I am glad the king is feeling better. Oh, assistant manager Han Haji recognized an acquaintance and greeted him. Department manager, why are you here? The department manager tapped on the file and said, the tractor is broken, so I have to stop by the supplies room. No one has used it since the Neju disaster. Han Haji said enthusiastically, then I will go with you. The two stood before the massive doors of the Pantheon supply room. The department manager looked at Han Haji and asked. So this is where Lord Gelbrick's hammer is kept, right? Han Haji smiled wryly and replied, yes. Then Han Haji clasped his hands and prayed, hoping that he would reach nirvana. The department director's face darkened as he gave up on Han Haji. Are you mixing Buddhist and Christian leaders or something? You even hid the cross. The door slowly opened, the department manager asked again. Has the hammer been here all this time? Han Haji answered with certainty, yes, right now there is no one who can use it. Now we keep it here. And reality slapped Han Haji's words in the face. The hammer's location was empty, it had disappeared. Han Haji's eyes widened in disbelief. All his emotions plummeted. Today the sky is blue, a luxury car is parked right on the side of the road. Stepping down were 2 middle-aged men. Brown hair adjusted his jacket and clicked his tongue. Here? Black hair walked behind with his hands behind his back and said. We are about to see the first epic item in Korea. Squeak, a zapper blocked the way, startling the 2 men. Brown hair recognized and pointed. Oh, it's the Zappaner. So it's really at the Pantheon Association. Zappaner announcement. Hammer challenge. Yeah, but. Welcome. Zappaner is happy to talk. Oh, thanks. Brown hair looked at black hair and asked. But why? Black hair said. He seems more friendly than I thought.